وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Yeah, I believe there's still some people coming, but since we are threatened by load shedding at times, I think it's best that we begin instead of waiting any longer. It's fine we begin, no? Yeah, all right. If you can just get a quick intro of yourself, where you're from, what you're doing, and then I'll give an intro of myself. The sister there, inshallah, if you can just tell us your name, where you're from. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
My name is Aisha Boni from
Muallima. Okay. Are you part of IDP or? Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. You can just introduce.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Isa Shangase.
Ibrahim Mokgabudi, staying in Westwood, but we work closely with SAD and the students at the YBank, the Imam Islamic Center.
The tertiary students?
The tertiary, the younger students as well. So we, as the Westwood community, we try to assist how we can.
Oh, okay. Alhamdulillah. Good to have you. Yes, yeah. Okay. Sheikh, how long are you at Imam Mutala?
3 years.
3 years, okay. All right. Sheikh.
My name is Washington from Neighbor, from Babs Farm. So,
Babs.
They teaching us.
Oh, okay. MashaAllah. Jazakallah, Sheikh Neighbor. We met, yeah, a couple of times. Rahman, you can. Salam. Yeah, Abdurrahman, one of our young participants, inshallah. Okay. Hamza? Oh, okay, Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abu Muhammad, just here witness in Jalanjir. I'm the Imam in Mbulu. Also look after 20 orphans, teach madrasa, the IDP alumni.
You're still in Mbumbulu, Sheikh?
Yes.
Oh, okay, mashallah. All right. Muhammad, you just...
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Sadek. I'm part of the IDP. I'm one of the programs managers.
Okay, mashallah. My name is Moulana Ebrahim Mokgabudi. I am based in Gauteng, right, mainly around the east end of Gauteng. I'm not an imam of a particular masjid. I'm someone that is more passionate about training and development. I do community development as well. So that's just in a nutshell. And I'm part of the IDP. I manage IDP in Gauteng, the entire Gauteng. That's my role in terms of the IDP. Okay, shukran for making yourselves available today. We pray that the session is going to be beneficial for all of us, and Allah grants us the proper understanding and reward us for being here. So one thing that I just need to make clear at the outset is that our discussion is not going to be something that is academic here, right? I'm not here to be going to be presenting something theoretical or too academic. Our presentation is... Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, my presentation is going to be more related to practical on-the-ground type of experiences in relation to the work that is done by anyone that is involved within communities. How do you interact? How do you best serve the communities? How do you avoid certain pitfalls that are involved that you can encounter within communities? So just keep in mind that at any point that you would like to interject, you've got some comment to make, you've got input to make, feel free. This is a discussion. So I'm standing here as a facilitator. I'm not standing here as a lecturer, right? Because many of you, each one of you have got your own experiences. And probably certain things that we may present, you may have a different opinion about it. And it's all fine. It's good to have a different opinion about it. Now, when we speak about community work, you know, generally people who do community work are imams. You know, imams are quite in that. And people also that are volunteers within community work. In my experience and my understanding, I tend to think that community work is one of those very looked down type of work that is done. You know, someone that is, if you say I'm a community worker by profession, it is not something that is like hugely celebrated. You know, like unlike someone that says I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm whatever. If you say you're a community worker, generally that's not taken in a good spirit or to say that is something fantastic that you are doing. And it is quite amazing because if you consider that all the prophets of Allah that he sent, all of those individuals, Allah chose the best of humans to be community workers actually. All of the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal that came, these were people who were social activists. These were people who came to make reformation within communities. And these are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has identified as the best people. But as time went, if you're a community worker, I mean, you even know community workers are the least paid, the least, their opinion sometimes are least taken seriously. There's an unfortunate reality, whereas community workers have great value. You know, they've got great value to add within the human development sphere. Okay. So, and that's why sometimes you would find people would think that probably the person who does community work is someone that had nothing else to do in life. You know, you are probably a dropout in school or you are not so academically well inclined. There's a type of mindset. And you would probably also get very little paid because of that type of, you know, thinking that people have. And also, it's almost a given that to be a community worker, you would ask yourself, what skills do I need to be a community worker? Is there any skills that are required? So in general, we don't ask those questions. Anybody that qualifies, I mean, whether you qualify from a Darulum or you just feel I want to do work in community, there's very little thought that is often given upon the fact that a community worker also needs certain skills. They need certain expertise. They need particular knowledge that they need to have in order to excel in the work that they are doing. But how many times do we really give thought to this? Right? So part of what I do is I do training in relation to certain subject matters that are related to community work, whether it be strategic planning for communities, whether it be community visioning, whether it be community planning. So one of those that we are going to discuss today, inshallah, that relates to one of the expertise or one of the knowledge that a community worker needs to have is this one called community mapping. Right? Community mapping. So that's the topic of our discussion today, community mapping. In your understanding, what do you understand by this concept, community mapping? Does it ring a bell? Is there something that you understand by just by hearing this word, community mapping? What does it mean to you? In your own words. Yes,
The way how I understand it, look like a community mapping is for you to know where you are from.
Where you are from?
Where you are settled, you are doing the work. Then those people who are around you,
okay,
whom you are working to.
Yeah.
You have your community. You have to know, of course, each person where he's staying.
Yes.
And what is his situation, social situation. Even economic also, you have to know.
To have knowledge.
I mean, people they are saying they, what they are doing, with those they are.
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah, Jazakallah for that. It's a good.
So also just top of my head, what I understand, what I think it could possibly be is that obviously before you get into a community work, you get into the community, you need a sort of structured approach of who's where and who needs what. So to somehow get a better understanding of what the requirements are in each sort of part of that area.
Yeah.
possibly.
Precisely, yeah. I mean, that's a very good also definition and way of understanding community. Jazakallah for that. Yeah.
Yeah, more or less what he has just said. It's more like planning ahead, finding information about the community.
Yeah.
Getting that information so that perhaps you know how you're going to approach or how you're going to tackle some of the issues.
Yes.
That are there. So
Yeah.
I would say it's more like getting information.
Gathering information. Yeah. No, definitely. That's one way of define community mapping. Anyone else that? But Jazakallah, I mean, what you guys have shared is definitely precisely on point. Trying to understand the community that you work in. If you've got a destination to go towards, you want to go from here to Cape Town, or you want to go from here to Gauteng or Johannesburg, and you've never been through that route. Before you take that route, there's an element of information gathering that you will require, irrespective of whether you get it from the internet or you find out from other people how long is the journey. Because why does that help? You'll know how much fuel you will need, more or less. Are there sort of fuel stations along the way that are there? Because if you do not have that type of information and probably you have less fuel, you might just get stuck on the way. So you're sort of creating a picture of the direction towards which you are going, so that you are not stuck or you are not in trouble, right? Similarly, when you want to do work in a community, there's an element which is very, very, very vital, which we sometimes miss or we take for granted, or we think is probably one of those periphery, like the sideline type of issues. It's not so important. We miss out the thing of doing the community. So one of the definition of community mapping, you can say, is community needs analysis, all right? Community understanding of the community, identifying, like Sheikh mentioned, who's who, what their needs are. So let's just look at this broad definition of community mapping and try to unpack it, inshallah. So speaking about community mapping essentially means surveying. You know the word surveying, isn't it? Surveying means like you're getting like a clear, an overall picture of what is happening in the area of operation in order to build accurate knowledge. So these are very key points, very, very important. In order to build accurate knowledge, sometimes we fool ourselves and tend to think that we have proper knowledge with regards to the development of the community where we are, only to be surprised when we really, really do research and get an understanding that we do not have accurate knowledge about the community. So part of community mapping is very important for us to acquire accurate knowledge of the community, of what the community actually looks like, what the real needs are. Sometimes, many a times, as NGOs or organizations that are wanting to do work within a community, you think you know the needs of the people, right? Whereas sometimes you really do not know the needs of the people. You need to do a more thorough understanding and analysis of the needs of the people. And how should these be prioritized? Now, why is this element of prioritization important in the definition of community mapping? So there's no NGO or there's no individual or there's no organization that has all the resources, irrespective of how much they have. Nobody has all the resources to tackle and deal with all the problems that are existent within any community. Now, when that is the case, what it would mean? It would mean you need to prioritize, right? Because you cannot deal with everything. So what you will do, you will prioritize the type of problems that you think these are urgent matters. These are problems that need to be dealt with immediately. This also helps the community establish for itself what problems it faces, what assets exist in the community. So another definition they give for community mapping is called asset mapping. Asset mapping is that sometimes we assume that communities do not have resources of their own. No matter how poor a community may be, they do have some sort of resource. Whether it be, sometimes it's just knowledge resource. It's probably not tangible stuff that you can see. Sometimes it's experience is a resource. Right? There's a whole lot of other different resources that you can use in order for you to develop the community. So what assets exist within the community and to begin to look for and implement solutions. It is a way of encouraging and empowering communities to take action for themselves. So why does this, this point brought about is that when you do community mapping, after you've understood what assets the community have, and you understood very well what are the problems are there, instead of you coming as an outsider imposing solutions on the community, you are actually pulling the community together, that they become part of the solutions instead of you adopting that I'm the hero. I'm the one that's... It seldom happens that you will solve all the problems of the community if you do not get them involved and make them become participants of the problems that you want to solve within that community. Another aspect that is related to community mapping is called community mapping, also called public participatory geographic information system. It is a tool that can be used to tell a story about what is happening in our communities. Right? This public participatory geographic information, does anyone know about GIS systems? Did you hear about the GIS systems? It's like a geographic system or app that is used. So GIS in short stands for Geographic Information System. You know, just like how you have an app, like your Google Maps. Your Google Maps is like an app, all right? So a GIS system is like a geographic system. It's an app or it's a software which helps community workers, people who are involved in community. You sort of input information. Let's say you are working in a particular community and your mapping that you are doing, you are trying to identify how many schools are there in that community. And then you get to know there's 3 schools in that community. So you input that information, right? And then you input information as to how many students are there per school. Now the GIS system is like a software. Normally the very, what can I say? I can't say backward, but like the most simple form of community mapping is when people take a physical map. You know, I'll show you as we go along. They take a physical map and they actually mark the points on the map. This is a masjid, this is a community center, this is a hospital, this is whatever. They mark those points on the map. Now, a GIS system is a software where you can input it on a laptop and you are able to make changes on there without having to go through the cumbersome effort of using a map. But unfortunately, the GIS systems are not so affordable. It's not like every community member that can afford to have those systems. So in general, in poorer communities, instead of the people not doing anything at all, you would sort of encourage them to use the physical map. It is better than not doing anything, right? So now the GIS system also, let's say now you did the mapping of the schools. The GIS system, and you get, let's say you get the population of the community, the youth of the community, school-going kids in the community. GIS system is able to give you information of how many students per school, is able to give information how many teachers how many students per teacher. You know, it will tell you maybe 20 students per teacher or 50 students per teacher or something like that. When you have that type of technology, it's helpful and you make your changes in that way and you are able to update it there. But on its own, GIS is not sufficient. You still have to do that community walk around, that community feeling and understanding of what is happening in the community, physically walking there, right? So this is an example of a GIS system. So you can see the transportation, structure, orthoimagery, right? Orthoimagery, land cover, hydrography, geographic names, elevation, boundaries. So when you work with the software, probably the information that you need about the community is just about transportation. So GIS is able to just tell you about the what you call it, the transportation. But then you can put on top of it another layer of it, which is the structures, meaning are these shack dwellers in this community? These are formal housings that are there. What type of housings are there? So it's able to layer your information together, or you can separate it. So as a community worker, you are well informed as to the decisions that you want to make regarding anything that you require. For example, this is the full what you call it, map that is there. But then you want to only look at the land usage. You want to look at elevation. Elevation, whether it's mountainous or it's low-lying area or whatever. you want to look at parcels, the scattering of the community, how scattered the housing is, the streets, customers, and so forth. So this is how, if you have access to a GIS system, that would help you very a lot. I mean, making your job much easier. So, can you give me an example of any GIS system that you have in mind? I gave you an example of, like, that software that is in our day-to-day life. What is an example of a GIS system that you use on a daily basis? Anything that you can think about?
Can it be a GPS?
Yeah, the GPS is a GIS system because it gives you the information of the area. Yes? Yeah, definitely. Any other example? Yeah, GPS. Your Google Maps. Previously there were no even Google Maps. Nowadays, if you want to work in a community, you are able to look, before you even do anything, you are able to go onto the map and look at the layout. And I mean, it's a reasonably accurate Google Maps, although it doesn't, but the council, if you go to the council, they'll give you a more accurate because they've got addresses there, they've got streets and so forth. But the Google Map gives you a very nice indication as well as to the topography, the type of setup within that community. Right? What would you say is the most basic form of community mapping in your, like, let's say now you've never done community mapping whatsoever. You are going into a community, you are hired there as a community worker or someone that needs to be a volunteer and you want to make a difference in that community. What would you say is the most basic manner that you would have some sort of an understanding of the community? What would be the most basic of having some knowledge of the community? Is there any way? Yes, Shahar.
What I have noticed, some people, if they want to work in your area, sometimes they actually first, how many Muslims, how many families are there, Muslims?
Yeah, they ask you how many Muslim families. Okay.
And how they are, I mean, the position of the houses,
yeah,
if they are near to the masjid or not.
Oh, okay.
Those questions also
they ask.
How many they come to for Salah?
Yeah.
Salah,
yeah.
Ask those questions.
Oh, okay. All
If
right.
the Juma, of course, if the masjid get full or not.
Yes, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's one type of. But I'm talking about, let's say, someone that is coming from outside. They don't meet you as an imam. Someone that is probably, you want to sponsor a community, you're a donor, or even as an imam that is sent to a new community. As soon as you come into that community, like what is the most basic form, the very least of you getting some sort of an understanding of the community? What would you say?
Find a leader in the community.
Okay, you will find a leader in the community, yeah.
Generally, a leader would be able to give you some place to start with in terms of information on that community.
Yeah. So that's a strategy, actually. That's the best strategy because some of the information you don't need to do it yourself. If you can identify someone that has been there in the community for a long time, this individual will be able to assist you to get that information, right? Any other person has input with regards to what would you do if you go into a community? Yeah, exactly. Driving through, yes.
Identifying structures that are obvious. I mean, hospital, school, generally have signboards outside, so you can identify what infrastructure is there at a very basic level.
Yeah, precisely, yeah. So that's one, I think that's one of the answers that I was looking at as well. So you just come in there, you're someone that is completely new. The best thing is the walkabout or driving around in the community. Just by driving around, walking in any community, do you agree with me that it will definitely give you a sense of what type of community is this? We're not saying you're the expert, you have expert knowledge at that point. You don't have expert knowledge. If you go into your community, you see shacks, right? You see water running down the road. You see sewage spillage. You see, there's certain things that you will see. If you go there during the week, like you mentioned, Hamza, if you go there during the week, let's say you go on a Wednesday around 10 o'clock in the morning, you see youth hanging around in the street corners, aimlessly, doing nothing. What picture does that give you with regards to the community? What information are you gathering? It's implicit information, but it is very, very important and valuable information that you are getting, right? What picture do you get if you go at that time and you see there's youth during that time? What will you extrapolate from that type of a scene in your mind?
The unemployment level there must be high.
Yeah.
And there's little things to do. There's no any activities around for youth to do.
Yes, yeah.
If they're younger, then obviously there's issues with the schooling system.
There's issues of the schooling system, yeah. Why, probably if they're younger, then they're not at the level of employment. Issues of the schooling system, right? What else? What else you'll observe that will give you some sort of insights about the community?
Also, you observe as you're walking on the streets, who's interacting with you.
Yeah.
So that will give you an idea whether the community is hostile or it's friendly.
So
some communities you walk and everybody is looking you strangely.
Yeah.
Some communities you walk in, they know you, they don't know you, they'll greet you.
Yeah.
So you have that idea of what kind of community you are coming into.
Yeah, some community you walk, you are suspected as a criminal. So you get a sense of what is the mindset of the community, right? There's elements of, so any other example with regards to what you pick up? If you go into a community, there's less greenery. Like if, I don't know the townships around KZN, but generally in the townships in Gauteng, but the townships, it looks like they were set up in that manner, where you'll find there's very little greenery. There's hardly trees. There's hardly, But if you go to an affluent community, immediately you see green. You see plantations. You see the beauty. Whereas in poorer communities, quite often it's dry. So that also gives you an indication that this is a poor community or the type of setup that was meant. Any environment that is not green, it really creates a different mood. Greenery and nature, it creates a different mood as opposed to where it's dry, there's no plantation. I've worked in many townships and you feel that. Right?
You mean to be green because the people they have planted old natural trees?
Well, generally they plant. Many of the trees, some of them are natural, but if you look at this community, quite a lot of these trees have been planted. Right?
Yeah, but in mostly African communities, the only trees you find are those bearing fruits. Anything else we cut down.
You cut down. Yeah. Yeah.
You have been to Mumulu, it's vast.
It's vast,
and the yards are big.
Yes, yeah.
You only find, if you find any tree at any house,
it's only
a mango tree or peaches, or some fruit, but no natural tree will be standing.
No natural big tree that are standing. Sorry?
Because as he's saying, in my area example, in the place of mountains, there's a lot of trees and the rivers, so those they are not planted, they are natural trees.
Oh, yeah. It's like a wild type of a thing, yeah. But I'm talking about if you look at this setup, you can immediately look, there's a purposeful planting here. It's not like trees all over the show. There's like a purposeful planting, where there's the road, where's the grass, where's the pavement. I'm not talking about that type of a setup. So in drier regions, actually in the townships, more in the drier regions, you will find it's dry. Even the fruit trees sometimes you hardly find, So that also creates a mindset of this is like a backward type of community. So the most basic form, like Hamza has mentioned, of community mapping is if you just take a walk about within the community. It gives you a sense. If you see people walking with the beer bottles, it shows you there's a problem of drinking within the community. There's many elements that you can pick up just by doing a basic walkabout. So now this leads us to the question, why community mapping? And I would like us as imams or people who do community work, at whatever level that you volunteer in community work, ask ourselves that, do we generally, do we really give importance to this aspect of community mapping or understanding community mapping? So the question I'm asking, why do you think, why should we do community mapping? What is the essence? Why is it important? So we can speak about community mapping, and I don't want this thing to be theoretical where we're just speaking about it, but it does not relate to the type of work that we would like to do. Why do you think community mapping is important?
Bottom of the hand maybe for all those people they say that they are not working. So actually you getting in mind that the work which they expect you to do either is heavy or is.
Yeah, you gauge your work. Yeah.
How big the work will be.
Yeah.
How easy it will be. So how effort you need maybe to present.
Yes. Yeah, Jazakallah. So it gives you an indication of the amount of work that you need to do. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyone else? Why community mapping? Why should you waste? Because someone who's a donor, a sponsor, or someone that's coming from, don't waste my time. I just want to do feeding in the community, or I just want to build a mosque, or I just want to, whatever the person is passionate about. Because quite often, when people come into communities to assist, they come with what they want to do. They don't come, it's not like a bottom-up approach. It's quite often a top-down approach. I'm telling you what I want to do, right? And that's what you're supposed to do. So community mapping, again, what other reasons that you would, why is it important?
It is important, especially nowadays, Imam, who are now regarded as community workers.
Yeah.
You need to have to know, not only to know, but you also have to have relationships with schools, social workers, courts, and you just need to know your area and the people who are involved in all this. Because sometimes you find kids coming to you.
Yeah.
So okay, at that school, like things are not moving. Now, he knows his mother and father are not involved in his schooling.
Yeah.
So now he tends to trust in you to say, please can you look for another school for me? Or can you come talk to my parents so that you look for a school for me, but you have already talked to my parents so that I don't just switch schools without my parents knowing. So this community mapping, if you are involved, you know 4 or 5 principals from different schools, you'll be able to help these kids. We have cases where people are like, okay, my grant was stopped, and the person doesn't know what to do. So you help them to connect to the social workers to say, okay, this person's grant was stopped. What can you do? We have people who come to say, hey, my mother is not pushing for my ID, but I'll be writing exam next year. You take them to the counselor to say, can you please help this guy get the ID and all. So as community workers, you need to know all the corners and all the players in the community. You are also part of the players, but
so that networking power that you've created really facilitates ease in you assisting people who are in need. Definitely.
So, Sheikh, if we're looking at our role in community work, it's generally in the donor and the community. To some degree. Now, by community mapping, what it allows us to do is weigh the needs to the contribution and better direct that funding. For example, if let's say a donor came in and said they wanted to provide, soap to the community, but the community didn't have water. Obviously with that knowledge of what the community is and what their needs are, it will help you sort of use that funding or direct the usage of that funding in a way that actually benefits the community.
Definitely. It actually uplifts the community. It's a good example that you're giving. Let's say, for example, you go into a community and you are sure that this community is poor, they have needs. But probably the information that you do not have is that this community is a community that is such that they are good in agriculture. They're very good in agriculture, they can do farming for themselves, but all they lack is the implements of the agriculture. They need tools. They need a borehole to be dug there. They need certain things, equipment that will assist them in order to be self-empowered. But now you as an outsider that is coming with your mindset, you only look at the poverty element. So what does that mean? I must bring groceries for these people, right? And then you'll bring groceries for 1 month, 2 months, probably 3 months if you know your pocket is deep enough. And then after that you disappear. or sometimes even the type of parcel that you bring is not even sufficient for that entire community. It's probably, you don't know really the details of each household. Some households, there's a father there, there's a mother, there's a grandmother, there's extended families that are staying there. With your mindset of imposing a top-down approach, you come there, you think you know this is a parcel that a household needs. Who said that there's the parcel for this family? Families are different. Families, the dynamics of families are different, even the way they eat. So if you come with an approach to say, I want to empower you, that's when you will take the community mapping serious. That's when you will be sure to say, instead of just throwing the money, I'll rather hold back and assess and do a needs analysis and determine actually what, so that when I help this community, I really help them for sure. I do not help them to make myself feel good. I want to take them out of the slum. I want to make them better, right? So the question that we need to ask ourselves, what informs the establishment of a community project? Generally, in our experiences as imams, community workers, muallimas, what informs the establishment of a community project in general, in your experience? Okay, sometimes it can be a need. I'm talking the genuine need. What other elements that informs the establishment of a community project in the experiences that you've had?
If we go with the experiences we had or we have, it's the one you have just said, it's a drop down. There is the organization that is running your masjid, or a donor went to them, and they say, we want to do. Then you as a community leader in our Islamic environment, sometimes they don't even consult you as the person on the ground. Yeah. They have zero consultation with you. Yeah. They just say, okay, Sheikh, organize 100 people, we're bringing blankets. Yeah. Who said the people need the blanket?
No, without asking, yeah. Yes, yeah.
That's what happens most of the time.
Yeah.
There is zero consultation with the people on the. Although, to some extent, that approach is changing.
It's changing to some extent.
It's changing to some extent. You see, like when it comes to the 10th of Muharram,
yeah.
1 million is spent. 1 million rand. Talking about 1 million rand is spent on biryani. They take it to the elections and the people only eat meat and they throw the rest.
Yeah, it's true.
Because it's not their food.
It's not their diet.
If we were to ask them, okay, we want to feed you guys on the 10th of Muharram, what do you need?
Yeah.
Bring them chicken, bring them gas, bring them stuff. They'll cook themselves and they'll feed and eat something that they are used.
They are accustomed to. Yeah, just on the food issue, there's a community nearby where I live. So these people, every Friday, there's like a mazar there. So on the mazar, they'll do feeding quite often, maybe in celebration of the Shpir who has passed away there. So without fail, every Friday, they'll do like some sort of feeding that takes place there. So now these people, in their eyes, they're doing something really great. We're giving these people on a Friday food. But the talk in the community, because I worked in that community, the type of talk that is there in the community, like you said, first of all, they make like a halim kind of a thing, which makes sometimes the people's stomach run, because they're not used to that type of. But now, in these people's eyes, it's like, hey, we made such a top halim, and dag halim. There was no consultation. In fact, anybody that goes to collect that type of food, you are considered to be the most downtrodden, backward, like a poor member of the community. So, what I wanted to say, more than just the fact that they don't like the food, you are actually diminishing the respect of the people who are, probably those people are hungry. That's why they're only going there because that's the only option they have, right? But it's not something that, had they had something, they would never do that. Their dignity would be much more meaningful. But now the donor, the person who's giving for them is like, I'm getting thawab. Thawab is being coin. Yeah. You cannot be expecting thawab by taking out the dignity, the karama of the human that Allah has given to a human being. That's what happens. So the top-down approach type of a thing. So what is supposed to determine the establishment of a project within a community? It's based on the needs. Like you mentioned, that the needs have to match the the supply, the resources. If you have done the research and you understand what is needed, immediately, for example, if you know, like you mentioned about, let's say, kids coming from school, and you've done your community mapping, you've did an analysis, if you get to know that within 10 kilometers radius of this community, there's no library, the most important thing that you're going to be as a community donor, well, let's say you've got 1 million, instead of putting the 1 million in Muharram feeding, you would say, I want to put a library and a tuition program for this community. Because you know why? This is a long-term empowerment and building of the community, as opposed to me doing that once-off feeding. And then, like you're saying, some people just taking the meat and throwing away the rice. That's what happens, right? So those are amongst the aspects that inform us that why community mapping is so important. So amongst the reasons, it helps you identify as to where the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the organization lie. Would you agree with this?
Yes.
So it's a when you do community mapping, it actually helps you with SWOT analysis. If you as an organization, you're coming to assist a particular community, and then you begin to understand the problems that are there within the community, immediately you'll know, okay, there's this problem, but this problem here is not our strengths. So meaning, you cannot do that, or you need to build on that strength. Because this community has this need, but it's not our strengths. So any effort that we need to make has to be the effort that leads to strengthening that particular aspect of it, right? The weaknesses and the opportunity. Knowing your neighbor. Sometimes you go, I would find in certain communities where donors or sponsors would come and build a masjid in that community without understanding the dynamics of the community. And in many communities, what I've seen, when a masjid is built, people have this mindset or this type of notion or belief to say, oh, there's an Indian church. You know, they've got that mindset to say, it's like, oh, it's an Indian church. Some of them have certain perceptions or ideas of what is happening in the church. The community, the masjid is not built in such a manner that is open to the broader community. It's not built in such a manner, or the strategy with which it's put there is not built in such a manner that it's inviting to the community. So if you're building a masjid in a community and breeding a mindset, this is an Indian church or people who worship certain things, do you see already you're starting at the losing point? You know, you are building a masjid with an aim of dawah, but you are losing already. Because that's not what your intended purpose can actually become the opposite of what you aim. Right. So in knowing your neighbor, there's a community somewhere near Pretoria. It's like a township that was there. So this brother, he had this vision, this desire that he built a masjid, like a community center. But what he did in building the community center, he actually walled. There was a masjid, and then like a big piece of land, he walled the entire area. And then inside the walls, he built like residence, where he said only Muslims can stay within that. And surrounding it is like all shacks or informal settlements that are there. So he wanted to create almost like a cocoon type of a Muslim community within that walled up area. So what happened at one point, there was a child, like a child that was killed within the community. So when this child was killed, someone actually threw the head of a child over the wall of the community center. The person that killed the whole. The community, because there's no neighborliness, there's no connection with the community, they came and ransacked the masjid. They destroyed, they stole computers, they destroyed a whole lot of things that were there. Because of why? The lack of neighborliness. The thing of that you think you're going to cocoon yourself and be successful. So those are some of the examples that if you do not know your neighbor or if you do not interact with your neighbor, you suffer in that sense.
Where was it? Namaskar.
Itireleng. It's in Itireleng near Pretoria, Lodium. Okay. You heard of a similar problem? Why is there on scroll?
Something like that also.
Yeah.
Yeah, Namaskar.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what happens. Because you have no neighborliness, you don't have connection and interaction with the community. Right?
In fact, just a addition point
Yeah.
while you're on that, I feel every masjid in the location should not only be a masjid, it should be like an Islamic center.
Yeah.
Where, even if community are not Muslim, let them get involved.
Yes, yeah.
Even the kids, let them come and play soccer. Let them do whatever they want.
Yeah.
It will attract them to Islam.
Yeah.
I know of two brothers who are very strong Muslims. One is reading a Hafiz of Quran. They never did the Shahada. You know, when we go to madrasa, they'll be waiting for us outside to play soccer. Then when we finish madrasa, we go with them. Then next time they say, why should we wait outside?
They come
to the madrasa. From there they went to Darul.
Oh, okay.
It's a Hafiz of Quran, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Very strong in Islam. But now if we build masjids that are like
Cocooned, yeah.
then we're not serving the community.
Yeah.
That's why the community is not getting involved.
Definitely. And you're also allowing them to form their own perceptions about what Muslims are all about.
Yeah.
So when the masjid is open in that sense, it's all inclusive, it's inviting, it creates an element of belonging for everybody. And you're right, I've had those experiences where people, sometimes you would find people who are non-Muslims who are very active in involving themselves around the masjid activities. They would actually give dawah on your behalf. You know, they would tell people, don't dare speak bad about those people. I'm not a Muslim, but I've got personal, hands-on, face-to-face experience with these people, and they are not what you are saying. But if you cocoon yourself, you are actually allowing that mentality to prevail, that, well, those are those type of people. They've got their own issues. And people formulate their perceptions, and you can't stop them because you are doing that. You are the one that's allowing that mentality to prevail.
If you come to Mumulat and you say you're looking for Sheikh,
yeah,
they will know me.
they all know you.
If you come to Mumulat and say, oh, Sfunum Fundis or Masuloma,
Yeah.
you use the word Mfundis because they all call me Mfundis. You will easily be directed to my house, inshallah.
Oh, yeah. So alhamdulillah, that's actually the idea.
The other thing, the mistake which comes maybe if we're talking previously about giving parcel and all of these things, or building something which is beneficial for the community. But I think the mistake is because the people, they look such many communities. So that is why they would prefer to give a small parcel because they want to touch more people, to give more people instead of maybe building one family.
Yeah.
I know one brother, he came to me, he said that I want to take care of one family. He take me to place myself, and I want the place to have one person and to be taking care of that person maybe for a whole year.
Yeah, yeah.
And the others, they don't prefer to doing that. So they want to let many people just give by giving small things.
So you got 100 rand, you want to distribute it to 100 people by giving 1 rand each.
Definitely won't help.
Yes. So that 1 rand possibly, I mean, the person can't even buy bread with that. Or if you're giving a hamper, sometimes some of the hampers are not even dignified. You know, I mean, you ask yourself, well, what would I do with that type of a hamper? The type of essentials that you put in that type of a thing. Those things are not really meant for a dignified family. So I think what adds to that, sometimes you see people have a wrong concept of the concept of thawab. They formulated in their minds to say the more I scatter my seeds all over the show, it means that is what it means, a lot of thawab for me. Allah does not work that way. That's why the Prophet ﷺ is clear. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. You can do the smallest thing with the type of the greatest focus, with the type of intentionality, and get so much more thawab as compared to someone that's feeding 100 people. So you need to teach people to understand that, brother, spending 100,000 rands on let's say a struggling father, someone, let's say during the COVID situation, a father lost his job. But this man has skills. They probably can sell stuff. They can do something. Now for you, instead of going to that family, dignifying the father, giving them a sense of dignity that I'm a man that can earn, saying, I'm going to give you 100,000 rands in order for you to start up for business based on the skills that you have, so that you are seen in your family as someone that can provide for your kids, for your wife. You wouldn't do that. You would call Sheikh Jasia, hey, COVID times are hard. I need 100 families, 100 hampers each. You don't understand that by you giving that father who's so downtrodden, who has lost his dignity, the multiplying effects of that are so vast eventually. The type of dua that person will make for you. Because you've got intention. First of all, you'll probably get even more thawab. Because why? This is not, it's not for show. It's not for very, very few people will see that kind of a thing that you are doing. Whereas the 100, even though you can say, no, I'm doing it for Allah. But I mean, honestly speaking, at the back of your mind, you're doing 100. So it can be seen by, say, did you see how many hampers I gave out? Do you understand? So that type of mentality prevails, unfortunately. It kills development. It kills empowerment. Right? Yeah.
It's also an inefficient allocation of resources.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Maybe when the imams are speaking to donors, use the kind of terminology that will speak to them and say, we can more efficiently allocate your resources if we do this.
Yeah.
Just using the right language with them might create that change in mindset that they need. So when you do have a donor that phones you and says, I want to do 100 passes, you say, we can more efficiently allocate your funds if we do X, Y, and Z, rather than just doing 2 bags of biryani, because that's not what our community wants to do.
Yeah, okay, that's a nice wording. So
it's a problem, because the social work, you are doing the social working in your area, they don't take your opinion.
But for some reason, this is a problem across the world. Like, if you look now at what happens in Turkey. You find that all the wrong resources are being collected. They need container homes. People don't have homes, but people are sending clothing, for example.
Yeah.
So
it's a very broader problem.
It's bad economics, but it's wasteful.
Yeah. It's a problem. Like, you're saying it's a problem of the ummah. It's at both macro as well as micro level.
And maybe the next step of the community mapping is not to do it with the ground level social workers, but with the organization and donors. Organize a community mapping workshop with Minara Chamber of Commerce and get all the businessmen in there and give them a course on allocating resources efficiently and how to make best use of their funds. Not only so that the money gets used, but then they maximize on the reward as well.
Yeah, you'll definitely maximize, So that's why you will find an imam. Many imams have been in a community for 10, 15, 20 years. But if you ask the man, what movement, what effectiveness, what impact, what tangible, real growth that you made that you can say, I've measured. We started here 5 years ago. This is the difference. You can see it from the community. Even the type of feedback that you get from community members when they tell you, before this man came here, before you people came here and set up shop here in our community, we were at this point. Right now we're at this point. At the moment, what we're doing is crisis management. I don't know what you can even call it. Just day by day. Ramadan comes, you live for Ramadan. It's abundance, it's happy, it's all of that. Disappears again the next time. Disappears again. How are you going? Because the idea is about building community. That's why the Prophet ﷺ built Medina. It's about building a community, and then what happens with that community? Its roots starts. It spreads naturally. Any goodness spreads like that. And the type of spread is solid. It's not like a airy-fairy type of spread, that just disappears with just one blow. It's a solid type of spread that happens. But now you find ourselves as community workers, as ai just living by the day. Like Sheikh mentioned, sometimes he says his opinion is not taken. Is there any advice that I know someone has for him, or some sort of experience that you have to say maybe? I like the point you mentioned, Hamza, maybe explaining to the guy that this is an inefficient allocation of resources. Probably he understands that type of a language, I hope. But is there anyone that has had an experience where maybe if you spoke to the guy who's trying to bring stuff in your community, you sort of direct him to what you know is effective, it's impactful? You can share with our Sheikh Naiba there. He can learn how it's done.
It's only the mindset of the organization. You see, like now our sponsors in Moulana, all the centers they sponsoring, they bring in the chefs on the table.
Okay.
If there is a feeding, they will ask you, what do you need?
All right.
We'll give you the ingredients, You hire people to cook. We will even pay those people who are cooking.
Okay.
Even madrasa feeding now. It's not bread and jam and juice. You write your list, what you need for the whole month. Of course, kids can't be eating meat all the time, so you change here and there. Maybe this day they won't eat any food, they will drink juice with bread. But they're involving the person on the ground rather than them making a board decision and enforcing it on the Imam.
But would you say also maybe part of the reason why the donors or the sponsor comes with that type of mentality, they understand that you yourself do not understand your community quite often. You have not done thorough research of your. I'm sure, obviously you would know your community better to a certain level, but sometimes it may be an element or a sense that they are getting that this person doesn't know what they are doing. You've got no sense of vision. You've got no sense of drive. You have to have a document of your plan, your 10-year plan, your 15-year plan, your 20-year plan of your community. Whenever a guy comes, you are able to present it to them and say, these are our priorities. This is a direction. Would you say that also plays a role?
Yeah, that can play a role, but do they give them that chance? Is the Muslim community worker given that chance to say, okay, give us your plan, even a yearly plan? Yearly plan is coming from the bottom.
Even a yearly
plan. You have to do this on this day, you have to do this.
Correct. Very few people present that plan in the first place, whether or not they. You can always make the chance to present the plan.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. You have to give them that.
You have to, yeah.
If you want to make the change, you sort of have to.
You have to be proactive.
Yeah, definitely.
People who come sponsor you a borehole, well, you've got no problem with water. Yeah, you've got no problem with the water in the area, and they say, Sheikh, we have money for a borehole.
Yeah.
Our need is not a borehole, we need a library here.
Yeah.
But because it's a donor and he's enforcing it, what do? One masjid is got 2 boreholes.
Ish.
And council water there is mahala.
Look at that, how much resources have gone to waste. And there's probably definitely a place that really needs it.
Yes.
That they're really struggling. And there is. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Okay, let's take.
It would be the same. It would be useless for you to present a written thing, what you need in your community, of someone who has already made a plan in his house, in his office. He has what he wants to do. Yeah. So he comes there to do. He doesn't come there to ask you or to sit with you. So what are you going to change everything you brought?
Yeah.
How are you going to change it?
So, in looking at sort of a smaller community, our students in the center that we work in, oftentimes they'll come to you, similar to how we're complaining now about the donors or the board. They say, we wish that we could make this change or this change or this change in the center. And they always have this mentality that the board is not going to listen or whatever it is, just like how we
do
now. But what we always tell them is, if you have to be proactive, if you show the plan, if you present your ideas, then at least there is a way for you to make that change. But if you just complain about it and you don't really have an active plan, then nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
So I think.
I guess there's also that fear factor. Sometimes with imams or community workers, if you've been put down a couple of times, once or twice, and sometimes maybe you find the person does not have the ability to articulate themselves in terms of really on paper or speak it out, but they know. That's why you have to respect someone. It's not about how the person is dressed. It's not about how well they can articulate in English. Sometimes that's where the problem lies in. Sometimes people are soft-spoken, they are unable. So I guess people make up their minds to say, what am I going to listen from this? You wouldn't generally listen to someone who's a cleaner. You don't even look at that person. How often do you ask for advice from that person? What can be done better? What type of broom can be used? What type of a tool that can be used to make your work easier? So I guess sometimes the fear that the person might lose their job, or the fear of being, articulating themselves because they cannot really articulate themselves. So I think it's both ways. There's some balance have to be. We need, by this type of workshop that we're doing, I'm trying to instill the confidence within the person who's a community worker to understand that what you are telling the person who wants to sponsor you is sensible. You are not talking nonsense. It's reality. It's sensible. It's meaningful. It's a fact. So yeah, those are the issues. So now what happens also, normally in the communities that I worked in, the imams to do that. I can do that because I've got networking powers. I've got connections. Maybe I've got abilities to get it from somewhere. If someone wants to bring a whole lot, a bag of old clothing that I do not need. If I do need it, I'll take it. Someone wants to bring size 10 shoes for zakah, size 11 shoes there. And I know nobody's going to wear those size 11 or size 12 shoes in my community. Now, because I'm afraid next time they won't sponsor, bring sheikh, we need. How can you need size 11 shoes for the entire community? That's what is giving it as his zakah. Now, you're teaching the donor that that's the type of person you are. You just take anything that they throw. No, I don't need it, jazakallah.
What about inviting donors on walkabouts within the community?
Yeah, I guess that, yeah, inviting them to.
That's pretty important. When they do want to sponsor something, they tell them, please come physically be present when we bring the distribution or whatever it is, and then use that as an opportunity to allow them to also interact with the people and see the community that they.
But there are very few who do that.
Yeah, it's sad to say. Like
when they come there, one of the first things they'll do is put the imam aside. That's why even imams in the elections, they are looked at, down upon from all angles. Muslims, they look down upon them. Community also is looking down upon them. Because when things like that come, that's why I love the concept of the IDP, where the imam is the center of attraction.
Yeah.
Where the imam is engaging with the community, with whatever resources is being helped with.
Yeah.
These other people, when they come, imam one side. They'll be giving themselves.
Yeah.
Because they want to be in that photo, they want to be in that newspaper. And the imam, and most of the communities are because, yes, I'm an imam in Mbumul, but I go around like a lot.
Yeah, seeing other communities.
I'm in Mayville, I'm in Marisbeck. That's the concept. When the donor comes or the organization that is sponsoring the center comes, the imam will be. He will even fold his arms there.
Yeah, he's second class.
And everything will be distributed, and the imam won't even get one.
Ish.
Nobody asks him, from this thing we are giving out, do you also need? Because the imam has got family.
He's got needs.
Not only do we have family, we've got people who come to us. When you are people gone, they will come to say, Chef, you don't have rice. I don't have rice at my house. The imam didn't get anything because they tell him, you get a salary. How much does the imam get? We don't even want to go there.
What Chef just saying is practical. It happened to me last week.
Last week, Last week it happened
last week, last weekend. So someone brought people to build a masjid, and I didn't even know. So I just saw that day.
Sure. Now, can you see the extent of the problem? I mean, that is dangerous.
Just join them when they.
And this is the same person that must run the community once the donors are gone. You're the one that is facing the community. Can you imagine the amount of diminishing? Now besides the other problems of misallocation of resources, the very person that is supposed to anchor you, the very person that is supposed to drive the development, that person, you've belittled them so much that the community doesn't even take him serious. How is he going to develop the community? So you kill the goose that lays the golden egg, actually, by doing that. You're worried about the eggs, you kill the goose. So yeah, it's a major problem. So when you do community mapping, it puts the organization in a stronger position to represent itself with other NGOs, local and national governments. In general, if you've done community mapping and you're speaking to people who are sort of maybe open-minded, they want to understand. If you are presenting a plan, a well put together plan, there's almost that thing about they respect you for that. You are not coming, when you're coming and speaking to the donor on the table, you're not coming there as a beggar. You are coming there as a stakeholder. We are stakeholders. You are bringing something, I'm bringing something, the community is bringing something. We are all together in this, and ultimately to please Allah. Can you imagine if that type of mindset prevails? In that way, there'll be so much benefit for everybody else, for everybody actually in the equation. At every stage, the organization is able to map out and measure the amount of impact and changes it's bringing within the community. If you did community mapping when you went into the community, first of all, what benefit would that have brought at that starting point? Because we're talking about mapping now, the progress or the type of change. If you start your community work or the development that you want to do by firstly mapping, how would that help you to measure? In which way would you think it will help you to measure after a period of time?
You know where your starting point is, and it's easy to thereafter track.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you came in, you don't assume. You exactly know where the community was, what resources were there, what type of troubles and problems were there, the failure rate in schools, the crime, the lack of water, the lack of solid family structures that were there. You already know those things. And over a period of 5 years, you can track, no, subhanAllah, there's some changes that has happened. But if you do not do that, there's no tracking. You don't know where you started. You don't know where you ended. You don't even know what input are you making. Input, I'm talking about long-lasting input. Input that really makes a solid difference on a permanent basis. It helps identify resources already present within the community instead of searching them elsewhere. So in any community, like I mentioned previously, there's no community that does not have resources, irrespective of what you want to define as resources. So you capitalize on those resources and you build on them. Right? So if you already have manpower, you have youth who are idle in the community, you as an imam or a community worker or donor coming, you want to activate those youth. It must be part of your plan and your idea to say, they are an asset, those youth. If you bring youth from outside on your own, you are leaving these ones that are there as an asset and then making them idle. So it does not lead you to your desired end. It also creates a much deeper connection with the community. It also, an understanding of the community helps you to formulate a clear vision. Would you agree with that? If you have a proper understanding of the community in terms of their needs once you do community mapping, you can only formulate a vision if you understand what the problems of the community are. So this is where the community currently is. What is the end goal that I want to achieve? But if you do not understand where the community currently is, how are you going to formulate a solid, compelling vision that is going to change the community? It helps you to focus on your circle of influence. If you did community, do you know what the concept of circle of influence? What do you understand when we say it helps you to focus on your circle of influence? What would you say is circle of influence?
The people immediately around you.
Okay, they are the people immediately around you. Then you broaden the circle, kind of a thing. I would say that. Yeah.
In terms of your role, to position yourself to help better what skills you're going to provide, your strengths.
Yes, exactly. So that means there's certain things you can influence. There's certain things that can only be influenced at governmental level. There's certain things that can only be you don't worry about things that you can do nothing about. What's your skills? What's your capabilities?
Where you can maximize your impact.
Where you can maximize your impact. It's important to do that. It's very, very important because many a times you worry about the entire dunya. Instead of, Allah is not going to judge you for what you cannot influence. Allah judges you based on the circle, like the people around you, where you can maximize your impact. And you know what happens when you focus on your circle of influence? Amazingly, your circle of influence grows. Your ability to maximize impact grows as you focus on the nucleus. That nucleus grows, your impact grows, it becomes bigger. Whereas if you have this mindset that I want to be all over the show, I want to build a borehole there, build another masjid there, keep food hampers there, build a school there. At the end of the day, you've done so much and you ask yourself, where's the impact? Where is it? So there has to be that laser, what do you call that thing, to cut with light? You know, you need focus, right? The type of continuous focus, irrespective of how long it takes. Focusing. And that's what we call impact. So the maximization of your efforts. It helps in understanding how Muslims are seen in the community. So quite often as imams, community workers, Muslims, part of why we do community work is because we do it with the objective of dawah, isn't it? So in my experiences of doing dawah, initially in the initial stages, the way I would do dawah is going house to house, giving pamphlets in the houses, telling people about how wrong the Bible is and all of those kind of stuff. But over time, you gain experience and you gain an understanding that you are more impactful by you firstly understanding what the belief system of the people are, also by understanding how do they view Muslims. You see, if you can understand how people in your community view Muslims, it will help you and give you an indication of how to approach them in terms of dawah. You don't assume that this is the type of information that you must give the people. You must give information based on what they understand, based on their perception of Islam, and that helps you to make a bigger impact. Right? So by doing community mapping and going like this, like for example, sometimes as an imam, I have had these experiences where you would find you give dawah, you will find like 10 people becoming Muslims, 20 people becoming Muslim. Sometimes there's certain perceptions that people possess. This is the reason why they're becoming. Probably, I'm sure many of the imams will understand that sometimes certain people would believe by becoming Muslims they'll be rich, right? Sometimes people, it's a style, it's a fashion of the time. They like the topi. Sometimes you ask a person, they actually say, I'm a Muslim, they'll recite the Shahada. But if you really ask, why? Hey, no, I like the topi. Hey, I like your dress. The guy tells me, I like your dress. And you are happy. And some of them even think, I want to marry an Indian woman, a Muslim woman. There's a type of mindset the person becomes a Muslim. So you are happy. You made 10, 15. Well, that type of a person lasts within the fold. But because you don't understand the perception, how many times someone become a Muslim and say they want to become rich?
I know a person who became Muslim because Islam allows to marry more than one wife. Because a Catholic wanted to marry another wife, and they take him to the priest, and the priest said, "Oh, you can't be allowed to do that." Then the next thing, I saw him in the masjid, and he was my neighbor.
Oh.
So after other neighbors, when did he become Muslim? He said, no, he's not becoming Muslim because he wants to become Muslim. He wants to become Muslim because he wants to marry the other woman because Islam allows.
Ish.
And after 2 weeks, he disappeared and he never came back to the masjid.
Disappeared, yeah. So when you understand what belief people have about the religion, what type of mindset they have, so when someone becomes a Muslim, there's nothing wrong with asking someone why you're becoming a Muslim. Sometimes we shy to say, I want to know why. So you understand that the person is really becoming a Muslim for what Islam is supposed to be about, right? So if people have perceptions of whether Muslims are terrorists or they have any other idea about it, if you haven't done community mapping, you wouldn't understand. I just want to play this video.
Before you go,
Yeah.
Small question. Taking just to deviating you back.
No problem. Yeah.
Sometimes kids come in the madrasa because of following others. They are not Muslim.
Yeah.
You stay with them for some time, 1 year even, but they don't get that the effect of Islam. Then after they go back to their religion. So what is lacking? Even I heard about a madrasa school where they are running madrasa and school, everything. They bring all those kids, but after 2, 3, 4, 5 years even, they go back to worshiping all those things as sisters.
They are normal. Yeah.
So what is lacking?
And every community, every poor community that I've been to, I can't think of anyone that has told me this problem that you are talking about doesn't exist. Where you find kids that come to the madrasa, they'll come for 2, 3 years and then it phases out. Once they become teenagers or they go high school, they become more independent. They don't care anymore about the madrasa. And part of the reason that I would associate that to, it again goes back to the numbers thing. The donor comes, how many children you got in the madrasa? You have to keep on showing him that you've got 70 children or you've got 100 children, because that's what pleases them. If you say, no, I've got 10, and there's a sense of focus. So these type of kids that you have in your madrasa, you are not only teaching them the Islamics. When they come back, you allocate time for their homework. Because those are the type of elements that will make the parents say, oh, my child is really benefiting in other ways in this religion. You know, my child is growing academically, as opposed to some sort of some of the parents send their children to the madrasa for what? At least I'm going to get a plate of food. And you can't chase them. You can't judge them as a teacher and say, no, you're coming here for a plate of food. You know, but once they are there, the question that lies with you as the teacher is, how much of the focus now or intentionality that you give to this child, that they understand that you are there to mold them to be a better individual in terms of who they are in this dunya, as well as the akhirah. So they sort of use the system for a few years. Once they get job or they qualify, I'm done now. Why must I be going to that place? Because that's the mentality that is created within the community to say there, you just go there to use the system. And then once you've gained or you got what you needed, it passes. I asked one Imam, amongst the kids that have come through your madrasas, you know, do you have many of them graduating university, you know, graduating, become, he says, Moulana, you do have one odd here and there, but majority of them, they graduate to Nyaope, you know. The only graduation that they get is you know what is Nyaope, right? Yeah. This common drug, the cheap drug that is, he says they come there for 4 or 5 years, and then they graduate to Nyaope. But it goes down to the numbers game. How many imams, how often are you asked about how many students you have in your madrasa, and that gives you a tick?
All the time.
Right?
That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question.
Children are you teaching? And if you say 15, they'll be like,
you playing around?
But I also think it's a lack of aqidah. You know, if we instill the aqidah into our learners, we won't have that problem.
Yeah.
Now the problem, the syllabus that is designed for us, that you must use this syllabus.
Yeah.
It only limits us to go.
I don't go. I always go.
Now they'll tell you, no, don't teach them hadith. No, they're still young. They tell them, no, they must memorize the Quran.
Yeah.
What benefit will they get from the Quran because they don't understand the Quran? Yeah. But if you instill the aqidah, then I think that will, better
our prospects.
My afternoon madrasa with the communities who are not Muslims. I don't teach alif.
Yeah.
Don't teach memorization of Quran.
Okay.
I teach those stories that got aqidah.
Yeah.
The story of Bilal.
Yeah.
Whatever stories that I'll find that has got the oneness of Allah, that's what I'll
focus on.
I'll teach them, and I'll write it on the board and they'll write in their books. That's what I focus in. Because I saw, even with the orphans, most of the orphans, they came there not Muslims. So there was a big gap.
Yeah.
But teaching one thing all the time, Allah is one, Allah is one. So now they started asking questions. Okay, now that round house at my gogo's house, we believe in that. So what is that in relation to Islam?
Yeah.
Then I had to explain that. Yes. Until now, I know most of those I started with, they are failed now. You can even see the way they make salah. Because that time it was like one Moulana said, up, down, kiss the ground, and back to town.
Yeah.
Right. But now you can see that in length of salah they are competing with their share. If it takes me 4 minutes to make 2 rakats, there are others who are making 4 minutes or 5 minutes making 2 rakats. So now I know they got the aqidah, they got the essence of Islam, they know the importance of salah, but it wasn't a 1 year thing.
Yeah.
It has been years drilling the same thing until they came up. So Sheikh Yassin is right. We need first to start with the aqidah, and not start with the aqidah like the way it has been written there in the books. Allah is one. Sing Allah is one. Muhammad is Rasul. Oh, Muhammad is Rasul. Jesus is not the Son of God. They will sing that, but is it getting into the
understanding?
Into the understanding of the heart. Remember, when they come here, they will be like Muslims. But when they go back home, what happens then?
Yeah, it's true.
But one positive thing from the question of Naib, Moulana Dawood Taylor from Inchana, he told me one thing. Sheikh, I know maybe you are worried that you are teaching people who are not Muslims and you are teaching all these things. One positive thing that will come from here, not all of them will become Muslim, but most of them, they will become supporters of Islam.
At least, yeah.
If somebody wants to attack Islam, they will say, no. I've gone through their system. Whatever you're saying is wrong. It's not what they believe. They believe in ABC because they went through the madrasa system. Yeah. So it is a small positive, but as insan, that's not the positive we want, because we want our numbers to grow.
Yeah. Also, just to add before you take your, also just to add to that, you will find as mashayikh or people who are working in the community, you've got kids who are in your madrasa. Let's say there's 50 of them. And then there's this concept of where we do dawah in the community. The thing that I always ask imams, why don't you begin your dawah with the parents of these kids? Even if it takes you 5 to 10 years, because now you see you're focusing on the child and you really want this child to be really, really a solid Muslim. You got to somehow fix the home that is there. Even if the parents do not become Muslims, but they've got that understanding what my child is doing, what journey my child is taking. Some of them would become Muslims, inshallah. But the type of support, the type of focus that you are giving, the type of intentionality, as opposed to say, no, I mean, like a donor comes, go and give dawah all over the show. This is why you'll find the kids slipping away, because they're learning one thing in the madrasa. When they go back home, and you don't care, there's a sheikh. You don't care, as long as there's kids that are coming there, and you can show your database, here's the register. Whoever come, you have a nice jalsa, they recite, hey, mashallah, your kids recite well. But you did not. The intelligent thing, naturally, anyone will tell you, is you strengthen the environment where the kid is coming from, so that when they come to the madrasa, there's almost the same song that is sang at home and the madrasa system. Oh, you wanted?
Yeah, so Sheikh, I know we're getting a bit off topic a bit, but I was just going to say that because I've studied overseas, I've seen that there's a difference in the way youth empowerment projects are organized overseas compared to us. So there, a lot of focus is put on tertiary students, so that once they leave, that high school madrasa environment, there's still a lot of focus and even funding put on student homes and keeping that environment. Because if you imagine a high school student who leaves with that madrasa studies, for them to continue practicing as a Muslim, especially in the university environment, is very difficult. Like you see in Turkey, what they do is they put a lot of emphasis on tertiary students' empowerment, and then also they keep those connections after they graduate.
Yeah.
So you don't really lose the connection with the students all the time.
Yeah. Okay, keeping that connection. So also, your point of Aqidah, I like it, Sheikh. It's very important, but the focus only comes if you are not worried about the number thing. The number thing is what, unfortunately, that sometimes derails us. Takes us off course. Yeah.
Just say, sometimes the person will ask the person when you came to Muslim or to Islam, they tell you because they like the cave or way how to get. Someone came and he related his story that they were promised and then he saw this and that related to Islam. He became Muslim. Now, what you can do so that you can convince the person, because what the objective actually is telling you that because he wants an assistant, like getting job for him.
Yeah.
How can you convince this person so that his focus shouldn't be that, but should be the Islam itself?
Yeah.
So what you can, especially if the person is near, is not you, is staying distance, maybe you only communicate on the phone.
Yeah, obviously you can't.
If he's near also for you to convince for the classes.
Yeah, obviously you can't tell the person, no, don't become Muslim, whatever. But I would definitely tell an individual straight if you say, sometimes, they say I want to become Muslim because I'll get a job. Things will, like that type of mindset. Like how these many churches that would promise you. In fact, many of these overnight churches, they promise to say you'll get job, you'll become rich, and you'll do all of those type of stuff. I would tell the individual straight that if that's the intention you're coming with, you're definitely not going to, that's not going to happen. I mean, it might happen, but that's not true.
He's not going to tell you that.
Oh.
He won't tell you that, but you know that this person is intentionally that. When he comes, he wants to be a Muslim, and you even give shahada. But you see the way how he talk with you.
That he's looking for a job.
It's something else.
No, yeah, Mr. My neighbor, let's help you a little bit. You see, in short, your story is like you now, you're taking a boat, you're going to fishing. You can't just drop your hook in a water. No fish you will catch. Once you need to put it in a hook, you have to put it in a bed. Then the fish will come there. The fish, when you eat that thing there, you won't think you're eating a hook. You're eating the fish or a bed what you put in. Once you pull, and you feel your body or your finger, something is pulling, and you pull back, and you catch it. You get my point there? So the main thing what you're talking about, to the people when they come to get something. So while they're coming in their brain to say, no, I'm going there to get a clothes, I'm going there to get a grocery, I'm going there to get something to gain myself. That time now, you must use your brain now to catch them nicely. What you want to do before they're going to get. If you lose them, you lose everything. Then you're going to be just Imam, finish.
Yeah, so I think what he's asking, like, do you tell the person that that's not the objective for which you're supposed to come here, or you leave them? I think that's the point he's trying to...
You use a strategy in order to educate them properly. Because sometimes you tell them, that's not a good objective for you to come in Islam, and then they will leave forever.
Yeah.
So it's you to use your wisdom. What is their level of understanding and what?
Yes.
Sometimes you just befriend them. I know a person who became Muslim because of the 9/11. So he was on the side of Osama.
Yeah.
So we tell Barnes, what? Hey, we tell Barnes. Then next thing he came to the mosque. Next thing we gave him books.
He became Muslim.
If you look at his beard now.
He's a proper Muslim. Yeah, so there are chances where someone comes with a wrong intention. I think what they're trying to say, you just need to see a way of how to make them see the other side, And I guess it will show with time whether the Iman is instilling. Some will leave and some will stay. Some, if they want to stick to that, because I know of a very close cousin of mine. Oh, I was just going to play the video. It's load shedding.
Load shedding or load shedding?
Exactly 10 o'clock.
10 to
12. Someone that became a Muslim. This person actually became Muslim for the intentionality clearly of he wants to have a job. It will prove to say what the individual came for. If you try to, it will take time. Some become Muslim and some don't become eventually. And another problem with that, like Sheikh, the Sheikh mentions that even if maybe they don't learn much, they don't remain Muslim, they'll defend Islam. The opposite side of that is the ones that you find on the corners that know the kalima, they know Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, they know lillah, they know sadaqah, sheikh sadaqah, zakah, lillah. Now you're perpetuating those type of individuals that know all the right terminologies to use it for begging, to use it to create a particular picture for Islam. So it's just about understanding the dynamics and the balances of the issue. I suppose we'll have to just take a break, inshallah. There was a video I needed to play, but with this it won't happen. Maybe we can take a 15 minutes. The load shedding is how long? It's 2 hours.
10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay, let's take a 15 minutes. Yeah, we'll just use the manual to go through some important points, inshallah. Okay, we can go there, I think on page 6 where it says negative consequences of not doing community mapping. So from the discussions that we've been having throughout the morning, I'm sure by now you might have an idea of what would be the harms and the negative unintended consequences if you do not do a community mapping. So one of them is that complete disconnect with the community. This is as a result of assuming that you have all the answers to all the problems of the community and failing to take input and suggestions from them. Like someone has mentioned that many a times you as the community worker, you would find that very little suggestions or input are taken from you. It does seem like the one that has the funds is the one that ultimately decides what programs need to be implemented within the community. Can someone read for us the wrong diagnosis of problems? If anyone can volunteer to read for us the points that are there. So we are on negative consequences of not doing community. So what would be, you as a community worker, what are some of the problems and challenges and negative effects that will happen by you not fully doing the community mapping? Someone read for us there, please.
Wrong diagnosis of problems. Yeah. Not consulting the community means you diagnose problems at face value. This leads to the wrong solution being put in place. Consequently, doing more harm than benefit to the community.
Yeah. So what this means, if you do not fully understand what the problems of the community are, you are going to have a wrong, you know what a wrong diagnosis? When you are diagnosed a problem wrong, and if you diagnose something wrong, what happens?
Wrong solution.
And you make it worse.
You'll give the wrong medication.
You'll give the wrong remedy.
I think
the situation becomes worse.
The situation becomes worse. Just like how you would fight and be very angry with a doctor that gives you the wrong medicine or the wrong... but how come we don't worry about that with communities? You're playing with people's lives. You're playing with the developmental of individuals, of really taking them forward, but we don't care. Life goes on. So wrong diagnosis of the thing because you do not understand the problems in the community. Right, so that leads to... So in the community that I live, there was an experience, a friend of my friend and I went... so I live in an Indian community, but within that there's like flats that are built there where there's more like colored, the colored type of community. So many of these individuals, I would pick up that they would not come to the masjid. There was no many of them are Muslims, but there's no sense of belonging and connection to the masjid. So my friend and I went to these flats just to try and get a picture of why are these people so disconnected. So when we went there, just trying to diagnose as to where the problem, why do they not, they'll have a more belonging to those non-Muslims who they are living within amongst themselves than with the Muslim community that is there. So eventually what we picked up is that the problem that was there is that the only association that they had with Islam was about the hampers that they were getting from the masjid, from the affluent community. Because when we would ask them like, you go to the neighbor, I just want to know your well-being, why you're not coming to the... Yeah, the Jamaat is giving this one 2 hampers, they never gave, they play music whole weekend, and here by us they don't deliver. So for me, I was shocked, what does coming to the masjid have to do with a hamper? But then you realize that the community itself, the affluent community itself, taught these individuals that your association, your coming to the masjid, your belonging to Islam, it's based on the hampers that you are getting. There was no effort that was made beyond the hamper type of a thing. Sometimes we sort of, you outsource that emotional attachment with the individual by material stuff. Whether it be those quick fixes, the hamper, or whatever it is. You outsource that emotional touch. You outsource that love, that compassion. You can't match that with anything. This is why the Anbiya of Allah had to go through so much suffering, so much pain, just to connect with the people. That thing is not you can't substitute it with anything. This is why sometimes you'll find, you ask yourself, how come a prophet of Allah for so many years, only few people became Muslim? So few people took to the message. Even the example of the Prophet ﷺ, majority of the people took to Islam only at a later stage. in the beginning, people who were connected were very few. There was deeper opposition than connectedness. This is why the reason, I mean, when you look at that, there was so much of emotional giving that he had to do. And if you see the individuals that became Muslims in the beginning, the ones that the Prophet ﷺ made effort on, they were so powerful that you could throw them in any jungle, they'll transform it into a great empire. That's how they were. So we've reached a point where we think just throwing things at people, you know. As long as I gave clothes, I gave material, I gave this will make a person a good Muslim. It doesn't. So this is one of the things when I was doing that community mapping in that community, you picked up that, and that's why you ask Sheikh about why do some of the kids disappear. Once they have no need for their stomachs to be filled anymore, they don't need your food. They are smart enough. In fact, now they can even afford to buy beer, let alone food. Because why? You taught them that your connection with Islam, you're drawing them with that, constantly doing that. You know? So I don't know, is it lack of understanding? So these are the negative consequences of you're not understanding that the things that you're thinking are benefiting the community, they're actually becoming harmful to the community, to the progress and to the growth and sustaining your efforts that you are doing in the community. Right? So that's another very important point to keep in mind. The third point, you can read that, Sheikh.
Third point, somebody else.
No, you can read. It's fine. If you.
Very glasses.
Oh, you can read that, Sheikh. Just say it's fine. Yeah.
Wrong priorities. Why priority needs for the community?
Oh, we didn't read that one. Well, a duplication of resources, right?
Oh, duplication of resources.
So how does not doing community translate into duplication of resources?
Providing something that they already have.
That they already have. Yeah, like you mentioned the borehole.
No, and you see in Ramadan.
Yes.
Yeah. One community will be given groceries, I don't know, maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
This organization comes, gives grocery. The next organization comes, gives grocery.
Yeah.
So now, a person is poor. They need money for electricity. What do? They take the same groceries now, sell it at a cheaper rate, and go buy electricity or buy whatever other necessities they need in life.
Yeah.
And we experience this problem every year.
I've experienced that. You're right, 100%. It quite happens.
So duplication must be avoided. If one organization came and gave, let's give something else.
Yes.
It's not necessarily that I don't know what's the problem with food. Because we always want to give food and more food.
Yeah.
We don't want to
empower
give other resources. You can go to a person, tell them, this is my business plan, this is what I want to do. But by the time you leave that organization, you went to ask for a business to be helped with a capital. You come out with a plastic of
It's because it's easy, Chef.
Yeah, also I think it's also part of it.
And maybe also an emotional sense, feeding somebody else. Maybe it's an emotional aspect of it as well.
No, but somebody told me it's like, okay, because I don't know about other places, but in Devon, there's an attachment, traditional attachment to feeding a person than anything else. That's what he said. He's an Indian, and he said that. That's why he said in the old days, like every Friday they used to give out eggs. There's a tradition attached to that.
I think it's like you can make quantity.
Yeah.
You can distribute it at ease. Like it's just making the eggs of food and then just distributing it. I think that's the
main thing.
So irrespective of what the people really need. And also, let's be honest about it. Don't you think this is sort of condescending? You know, it's like you'll make decision for your dog that you feed. That is okay because your dog, whatever they eat. I'm not saying that people mean it that way. I'm not saying people consider people to be dogs or for them not to have their own opinion. But if you really, really think about it, for me to come and give you something that I've never asked you whether, especially when it comes to like things like food or petty stuff like that, I view it as an element of disrespect somehow. You know, because you've got no opinion of what you need. I've got the money. I know what you need. And every Ramadan in, Ramadan out, I'm going to give you what you need. I know what you need, you know. So a community will get like 10 people contributing hampers. Whereas if you're a very astute and smart donor, you would come and ask the Imam, the community activist who is there, and say, how many have people already given you groceries? Okay, I'll reserve my zakah, I'll reserve my whatever. You'll probably, you know, for after Ramadan, probably when there's no food, or there's another need. There's need to pay school fees for the kids. There's a need for other things. But no, like, you know, there's many reasons. There's tradition, there's the ease of it. It's easy for people to say, sometimes you tell a person, no, but the need is this. I say, no, but our family, they like doing it. You like doing it, but is it the ultimate thing that the community likes? So you're liking it means everybody else that you are doing it for, they must like it as well.
And also it's a narrow understanding of some of the Islamic, either verses of the Quran or Hadith.
Yeah.
Rasul was living in the desert where the water was scarce.
Yes.
So he says the best gift you can give a human being is water.
Yes, yes.
Now you come to Mbumbulu where water is plenty, but still want to give water because Rasul said it's the best gift.
Yeah.
You see, so how do we channel that? Say, okay, my brother, we have water. Yes, it's the best gift, mashallah, alhamdulillah. But if you were to give us this, with Allah, it would be the best gift from you.
Yes, we'll make dua for you because this is a real need for us.
Those are the just like the feeding in Ramadan. Ramadan is coming, hampers will be left, right, and center. But people still need to eat after Ramadan. What then? What then? We leave them for 11 months to fend for themselves. Then we come on board in Ramadan. Oh no, we will help you this Ramadan. Why can't we create something that will help them ongoing?
Yeah. Also, I think the other challenge is that the donor or the person who gives, you look at things from your perspective as opposed to looking at it from the perspective of the person that you are giving. Yes. I think the reverse has to happen. The mindset is about, I'm going to get thawab. I'm pleasing Allah. It's about you. It's always about you that I must be recognized, whatever it is. So you're always giving. When you give, you are giving things from your perspective. Whereas I think if the thing has to be flipped, start looking at it from the person. Because another very important element that people don't take cognizance of is the aspect of karama, honor. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. You know, Allah speaks about, we have honored the son of every human being, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. The aspect of karama, honor, dignity, that is an intrinsic element that is given to every human being and that you need to uphold. The minute you minimize that or you diminish that within any human being, you have actually destroyed them. You have killed them while they're living. You have cut their necks. You know. So when you give, you must always give with a mindset to say, how can I enhance the respect, the dignity, the karama of this person on a perpetual? And the best way to enhance someone's karama is what? Is by making them self-sufficient. Uplifting them. If I make you self-sufficient, I know you won't have to come back to me knocking every day. I've uplifted you to another level that, it's unmatched. Yeah. Okay. Okay, wrong. Yeah, you can read the next one, Nashak. You don't have to read the whole part. Just read that and the 2 sentences after.
Wrong priorities. Why priority needs for the community may be buying shoes for the kids in winter. As an example, on your own accord, you opt to buy them blankets, in spite of many other organizations doing the same thing. Okay, so this is similar to what we have spoken about. So you feel to, like a person, my mother passed away, Sadaqah Jariyah, I want to dig a well, I want to dig a borehole, I want to plant trees. You find people saying, I want to plant trees or whatever it is. And so you want to give those trees in the community.
There are so many things of Sadaqah Jariyah. Building a library is Sadaqah Jariyah. You know, empowering a father to earn a livelihood for his, that's Sadaqah Jariyah, because you have made someone to stand up to perpetually provide for their family. There's so many aspects of Sadaqah Jariyah that you can look at, as opposed to, like you said, the ones that, you heard, you must dig water, or you must plant trees, you must do whatever.
There is a masjid that has been built in Nanda area. There is no house like for 200 meters or 300 meters. That masjid is an isolated building.
Oh, okay.
Isolated building. You go there, the last house is like that far, and you are certain, because knowing the area, you are certain that's not a Muslim house. So now we build a beautiful masjid here. That masjid will only be run by Imam. He will be the Muazzin, the Imam, and the Ma'mum by himself.
Yeah.
That's misuse of resources also.
It's misuse, yeah. You can say, no, it's a good thing I'm building a masjid.
No, we went to assess the area, and we found this masjid is beautiful. People have donated big money to build this project.
Yeah.
If it was a school, maybe it would be a Darul Uloom, then we will understand.
Yeah.
There will be kids there. But there's just a beautiful masjid and a Sheikh's quarter there. In the middle of nowhere.
The desert.
So someone told the guy he must build a masjid as Sadaqah Jariyah. Instead of understanding what would be the best structure for this community, I must build a masjid. That's what he thinks, yeah. And no matter where I'm building it. So you don't even use your common sense. All right. Okay, and the other point, you find in disaster situations, Ibrahim, you mentioned a very important point, like, the techie thing. I'm not to take away with the contributions and the efforts that people are making towards that. But you would find many a times when a disaster happens, organizations that have no expertise whatsoever to be dealing with disaster situations. Firstly, you need to analyze what is the need. Because if everybody's bringing tin stuff in a disaster, there's going to be a flood of tin stuff in the community. If everybody's bringing blankets and mattresses, there's going to be a flood of mattresses and blankets. If everybody's bringing food, I've seen even in smaller disaster situations where you'll find like a shack, like a place that is like occupied more by shack, a fire breaks out. Everybody, and then you know what happens after that? 2-3 days you'll see like packets of food lying all over the show. Your acne that is there, tin stuff or things like that, because it's too much of that. Nobody takes a back step and say, once the dust settles, I want to analyze exactly of what is the need of rebuilding these people's home, rebuilding the community. In that way, you are doing something that is maybe very difficult, because you need to do a proper needs analysis and understanding, but it's more impactful and it's more lasting, more long-lasting, the type of change that you are bringing. Right?
You remember during the floods here in KZN, I went to a certain masjid, found it packed with people. What's happening here? They're bringing mattresses and blankets.
Yeah.
And most of the people who were there to receive those blankets and mattresses, their houses were intact. They were not affected by the... Even me, when I was leaving, the people, they were asking me, where are you going? The organizers, Chef, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going home. I've prayed my Zohar. No, we're distributing blankets. I tell them, do I need a blanket? Do I need a Lalapan mattress, that small mattress?
Yeah.
I know people who are in need, and none of these people you are giving are in need. Because most of the Muslims who were there, I know them.
Yeah.
And I knew they were not affected by the floods. So it is also, yes, there is a disaster, but you just think, okay, disaster, we're going to give this. There's no analysis. They haven't consulted the people on the ground what is needed.
Yes.
Believe me, Moulana, there are still people living in walls whose houses were affected during the flood.
That time,
yes, they're still living in council hall.
Sure.
Even the people in the government, they must spirited the funds. Whatever Musepe donated, it can't be claimed.
Yeah. Like in a situation like that, what would be the need for day one would be very different to the need after 1 week. Would be very different to the need after 3 weeks. would be a very different need after 1 year. Once the what you call it, I like when one of the organizations sent an advert. What happens after day 21 plus? After day 21 plus, when the cameras have dimmed, there's no camera. Yeah. Everybody is gone. The people stay, like you say, you find a situation of how are people still living in halls? It shows there's a problem of the way situations of disaster are handled. So this is the analogy here, which says it doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you don't know how to use them, it will never be enough. Yeah, so at the end of the day, it doesn't boil down to the resources. It boils down to how you are able to use them. Yeah, so an important element to understand when you're doing community mapping is everybody does community mapping for different reasons. Some, you'll find an organization going to a community, probably they deal with, you want to deal with the situation of HIV/AIDS within a community. Or you want to deal with the problem of teenage pregnancy. You want to deal with the problem of illiteracy in the community. You want to deal with the problem of, there are many problems that are there in the community. So whatever type of community mapping you are doing, you have to have it at the back of your mind. What is it that you want to do with this information that you want to gather? Don't just gather information for the sake of it. This information is information that is going to help you to better deliver what you want to deliver within that community. Right. So, and for if you're an organization that has expertise in health, you know the type of research, the type of knowledge that you would require to work in that community. It's more related to health problems. Probably providing health facilities for the elderly, people who have to go into overcrowded clinics. You want to solve that type of a problem. So you do your research based on that. If there's a good health facilities within that community, then I'm not needed in this community. Let me go to a community where my services will be needed, right? Instead of again say no, I need to do it in this community, duplicating resources. On the duplication of resources, there's a lady that I was at one of the Imam, one of the masjids. She came there complaining. She was from another area. That I started a soup kitchen in this community. Now suddenly I've been running for 6 months the soup kitchen. Suddenly other people came and started a soup kitchen. Right? So she's complaining why they started a soup kitchen. Well, I can understand it's wrong why the people. But now, if I'm thinking to myself, if someone else started the soup kitchen, close yours. Why you want to go? They help. They're making your work easier. They say, no, I'm running the soup kitchen. Why they must come in?
They are benefiting something.
That's what it's about. That's why there'll be 2, 3, 4, 5.
The risk will be like cut short.
So in the guise of helping people, why would you be so desperate in wanting to do a soup kitchen? If someone eases my work, oh, alhamdulillah, I can focus on something else. But Muslims don't work in many Muslim communities.
That's the problem with these organizations and stuff. There's no collaboration. That's why there's duplication and everything. It's because everybody wants to show that we're doing things. Yeah. But it's not now we're collaborating and seeing what we can do for the people. That's the problem. That's why there'll be 2, 3 organizations going to the same masjid, 2 different time slots in the same day. You're collecting parcels. The same people are standing there holding one parcel, waiting for the next parcel. There's people that can be collecting somewhere else. But there's no collaboration. It's just because you knew that masjid is easy. I can go there, I can get a couple of pictures, I'm going to go there.
I'm sorted.
But it's over and over and over. It's just the same places that's getting hit. All the other places that's suffering, nobody's looking into it.
Yeah, because that requires a lot of effort. And it requires patience.
Nobody wants to do the effort. That's the problem. It's just what's the easiest and what I can get shown for, I'm doing it, I'll go and choose that.
Yeah. It's very humble. And you know what? This type of thing that we're talking about is long term.
Yes.
It's not like a hit and run type of a thing. But you know why, again, Mohammed? The problem is that donors like to give where there's noise.
Yes.
That's another challenge that we're facing. These things are very the complexity of it is very multifaceted. Because nobody wants to give where there's no noise.
Noise meaning?
Noise meaning like paparazzi, you know, like cameras are there. It's very outward. It's very for you to say I'm going to focus on 2 students. You know, I'm a working class individual. I'm a professional. I'm going to focus on 2 students. I'm going to help them in their maths, in their science. Let's say you're good in those type of subjects. That's what I can give for Allah, and I'm going to give it with all the heart that I can give. But there's no noise. There's not too much recognition. There's nobody that's going to come and pat you too much on the back. Whereas if you do the glamour stuff, you know, like for example, in disaster situation, again, that's an example of noise. I spoke to someone about 2 weeks back. They run like a very simple masjid organization and they do burial. He tells me within 1 week, they raised R500,000 rands for the disaster in Turkey. This is like a community. I was like, because why? Every funding goes towards where there's a lot of noise. If you are doing the type of stuff that are very slow in growth, they are very organic. They might have a bigger ripple effect after 10, 20 years. They might not be seen now, but they are not noisy enough for you to be recognized at this moment. So that's another challenge that we face in terms of the work that you do. Understand? Okay, there's on page 12 some examples of community outcome. So like I mentioned, that whatever community mapping exercise that you do, there must be some sort of an outcome that you want to do. For example, you want to get rid of scrapyards in the neighborhood. Why would you want to get rid of scrapyards in your community, in your neighborhood? What is the problem with that? As an example. So before you even embark on the community, there must be like there must be an idea or problem that you want to solve. Why would you want to get rid of scrapyards in your community?
It leads to all the people that steal like these metal objects and fences and gate motors and what stories. Just go sell it over there.
To sell it.
That's the biggest reason we want to get rid of the scrapyards in there.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you do a mapping of scrapyards in the community, and maybe if you saw that within 3, 4, 5 years, the amount of scrapyards in your community have mushroomed. They've become more. And if you try to find a correlation between the things that are stolen out of people's yards and the copper pipes with the scrapyards, you establish that.
Gates too. Gates.
They're stealing gates now also.
Gates, manhole covers.
So you want to solve the problem of the community, you do a mapping of that, and there's the outcome that you want to achieve. Okay, what are some of the challenges that you would say you can encounter with community mapping? You can read for us there on page 13, Sheikh, some of the challenges related to community mapping.
Community mapping challenges. It is not a less straightforward and easy process. There will sometimes arise obstacles along the way. For example, NGO, governments or stakeholders who stand to benefit from the status quo will constantly try to create frictions and derailment of the process.
Yeah, so if you've done community mapping and you've got an idea of why you're doing the community, if there's an organization that stands to benefit by the status quo, by things remaining the way they are, they wouldn't want you, the plan that you are presenting through the community mapping, they wouldn't want to embrace that. That wouldn't want to be adopted and taken on. So this is one of the challenges. Yeah. Carry on.
Mere exercise of community mapping may rise under expectations from
undue
expectation from the community, causing them to believe. For instance, if I want to know maybe the people who are living immediately around the masjid, so I take a census. So by me going to them and asking them some questions, they will be like expecting, now Sheikh is going around the house, or maybe soon will be receiving groceries, or will be receiving this, or...
Yeah. Exactly, you create some very unnecessary expectations about those. So you have to be very smart and subtle. I don't know how you have to do it. Or you have to be very clear and upfront. So, no, I'm not promising, because if you do not do that, if you do not make it clear, and you do not, because then people believe that you have to provide something. And if you do not provide it, then you'll see people coming, knocking by your door, banging the masjid door and saying, yeah, he's eating our parcels.
That's why where we are working now, when we're doing community work and assessment,
benefiting out of this.
When we are doing assessment of a family, like we want to give them maybe groceries.
Or a family, yeah.
We'll tell them, okay, for now we won't ask for your ID number. Because we want to assess the situation.
Yeah.
Because once you ask for the ID copy or ID number, the expressions, it shoots.
Okay.
So just, we are here to assess you, and we're not promising you anything. And if anything is going to come for the next 3 months, we're going to give you, but we're still assessing your situation. But once you qualify, then we'll need your ID number, your phone number, and all these other details.
Yeah.
That's the process we're trying to use now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't even need that information, because you want to give them anything, whether 2-3 months from now. So you're not saying you want that information. You are just doing it for your purposes of having information, database, as someone who's a community leader, as someone who's anchored. Taking people's information does not necessarily always mean that you are going, whether in 1 year from now. So that can be a challenge again, you know. So you got to be careful of how you do it, because generally that's what has happened. People have come, taken people's IDs, they take their addresses, and they probably use it for other purposes. So the minute you also come and do that, and as a Muslim Islamic center within any community, you do require that type of information. You do require that type of idea, because then you would know in a particular household there's so many adults, there's so many kids. So in case someone that comes as a donor that wants to sponsor, for example, I'm very passionate about early childhood development. This is what I would want to do. You look at your database that you have there. Oh, family so-and-so, they've got so many kids, and for a long time, they've been struggling with sending their kids to a very good early child. So you are able to promptly administer that information instead of scratching your head, you don't know, and the person disappears. So once you have the information on hand, you will use it on demand, and it puts you in a very better position because you know your community needs, right?
People with personal agendas may use the community mapping process in order to achieve their own ends.
How can this happen?
This is a danger even to us as imams.
Yeah.
Because I may collect information, I put it here, then I may use that information to a donor who will try to sponsor something which I will hold and not give to the community.
Yeah. So that happens. Someone may really do the community mapping process in order to gain something personally. A donor came, you just show the names. Hey, yeah, I have the names. So that's another challenge, unfortunately.
Some masses have got a register. Whenever the donor comes, it doesn't need to go back, check with the people, you just take your register. These are the people around here, and this what they may need.
Yeah, so that's that's another challenge with community mapping. You can go on, the next one.
Community mapping requires trust, understanding, and support team that is prepared to listen without prejudice and not responding immediately with technical solutions.
Yeah, so part of when you're doing community mapping, we spoke about community mapping is very much participatory. Right? You got to understand that each and every individual within the community have something to add. There's some value. So there's a questionnaire that I've put together that I'll show you. When I was doing Dawah in the initial stages, I told you that it was more about, trying to show the people how wrong Christianity is, how much they should. But then you realize that type of a thing does not work. And sometimes you go to homes assuming that this person is a Christian. Many people have given up Christianity. They don't even care about Christianity anymore. They don't care about, there's more like religion is almost now gearing towards materialism. towards what is it? Secularism. It's more like a secular mindset. What I can achieve, money, status. You see in our communities in the township, the type of mindset that is mostly prominent is what? The type of label that I dress. You'll find a person is poor, very, very poor, but then they'll put, what you call this thing on lay-by. They'll lay-by like a 2,000 rand jean. They'll lay-by a 5,000 rand something. So status and having material position is the new religion, possessions is the new religion right now. So if you don't understand the mindset of the community, you going there trying to convince someone about how bad the Bible is. How bad. There are those, but it's diminishing. You're having less of that these days, right? So when you're doing your community mapping, you have to understand the person, what are they saying, and from there you provide the solutions. Okay, the next one.
Oftentimes organizations are pressurized by funders or the agency to surpass other NGOs. As a result, try to move too fast, leaving the community behind in the process. If the process grows before the people, it swaps the capacity and kills confidence.
Yeah, so sometimes probably you have a vision and you have goals for the community, the direction that you want to take them. But then you have a very wealthy donor that comes into your community and says, I know personally of someone, they were more, they were doing, the type of activities they were doing were more lined towards skills development. So they had a computer center, they had like a tuition program within the school. I think they had an early childhood development as well. But one donor from the Arab countries came and say, I am into dawah. I want to spread the message of Islam. I've got whatever amount, but it seemed like it was quite a large amount of money that this guy promised the organization. And he told them, you just give me the statistics of people who become Muslims in a month, your funding will come. So this organization actually moved from the direction of what they initially were doing, skills development, empowering. They started doing dawah. The guy actually said, hey, Moulana, you want employment, want to do the dawah. So I must be also part of that doing of the dawah. So sometimes what happens, organizations that have a vision and a direction, because of the imposition that comes from outside based on the funding, they completely are steered from the direction that they initially intended. So what would happen amongst the dais, maybe some of you would know this organization, these dais were so much under pressure that every month you had to provide, there was a quantity.
Yes.
What do you call it? Yeah, there was an amount that you given that you must have so much of Muslims in.
New Muslims.
Yeah.
To produce like certain number of new Muslims.
Yeah, then that's how you get paid, So the more.
You can live now, that's your job. Hidayah comes from Allah. You can't.
Come. Okay, you next. You become
Exactly. It's like that.
That's the thing that happens now when you go like, okay, we are having this class, right? So you call the people, come, everybody, put your hands up.
We are now
do like
all
this.
Muslim.
Ashhadu, all these people become Muslim. We have seen those videos. Yeah. Even when was it yesterday or I saw a status from one of the organizations. He was standing on the chair and there were people receiving groceries and they were all raising their fingers, and I know I didn't want to finish. I don't want to be a witness to this.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are happening.
Yeah. How do you remedy these kind of situations? I mean, we can talk all we want. Then you ask yourself, like, why are the masses in South Africa not taking to Islam? How long Muslims have been in the country? Why are they I'm talking about the Islam that runs in your veins. I'm not talking about the Islam you find. That's why you'll find even those that have become Muslims among the South African indigenous ones, there's almost an element that we are newcomers, we are outsiders. We are actually this religion belongs to those ones. There's no ownership of this thing. There's no belonging. You have to take ownership in order, like how they've taken ownership of the churches. Did you see how communities have taken church ownership of the churches? They run it themselves. they contribute, because they've been given the type of ownership. It's because it was not the thing about raising your finger, hey, how many shahadas you mean, and then it's gone. That takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of focus,
But also, I believe what is the contributing factor to that is that, in Islam, basically, we are creating beggars, understand, rather than givers.
Yeah.
When you find somebody embracing Islam, they are well off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from the black communities.
Yeah.
But then the very same person will find him not giving, rather expecting to get zakat. Rather than him giving zakat, they say, no, zakat is for certain people.
Yeah, they must.
The Indians, they must give
Yeah.
zakat, not us. So the mentality, I believe, that needs to change, the mindset needs to change.
It definitely needs to change, yeah.
A person driving a Range Rover is going to make a line for Qurbani
Qurbani meat, yeah.
Where did we get it wrong?
Where did we get it wrong? Yeah.
Like now in the community, none of the communities which I work with, they are building a masjid. There's a language they got. So we had a meeting in December. We said, no, we are not going to outsource. We are not going to outsource. The community here, they need to contribute. Everyone has to contribute.
Yeah.
For this masjid to come up. And that is what is happening with the community.
Yeah. Whatever little you can contribute.
The masjid where this young man is, in President Street in Joburg. Is it President Street?
Which young man?
What's his name? Rajab
Mafuleka, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The community is doing everything.
They're doing it, yeah.
They are renting the place. When they pay the rent, whatever money is remaining, they pay the salary of the imam.
Yeah.
No, people have gone there to say, no, we want to sponsor this. They say, no,
yeah, okay.
we'll do it ourselves. The same people who live in the same building, they what a masjid, they took part of the parking, turned it into a masjid, they employed the imam. All the people, Muslims, they are contributing, paying the what, and paying the imam. So, like Sheikh Musa said, mindset should change.
100%.
Yeah.
We've been educating people.
Yeah.
For long, and some of them they working nice jobs, but they don't know how to pay zakat. Nobody told them.
They don't know.
You also need how to. That's why they end up. Oh, there's Qurbani in Mlasi. We're going there. Person comes driving a Range Rover. You look at him like, subhanallah, what is he doing here? He's supposed to be bringing 5 sheep himself.
Yeah. So there's no belonging. It's because of those hit and run type of projects. That thing of not really committing and being laser focused in developing one community at a time and strengthening it. Right? Another negative consequence, we passed that community mapping challenges. There was another element that I forgot to mention when we were speaking about the negative. Sometimes you find when people don't do community mapping and understand the dynamics within, you entrench division within the community. It quite often happens that within communities there's a breakaway group, right? The group breaks away, they formulate their center somewhere else, their masjid. Now someone from outside, because maybe you know Sheikh Jasia, no, this is someone I know, you heard about him, whatever it is. Instead of understanding why did you break away, what is happening, you go and sponsor him. Entrenching divisions that are existent within the community. By you sponsoring that breakaway group, without understanding why the person broke away, what are the problems. So you are actually, in an essence, thinking that you are getting thawab. Entrenching division within. Sponsor the existing and let that grow organically from the center, grow naturally that way outward. Then another, Sheikh Jasia's group, they also will break into another group. So you find the resources being scattered and splattered everywhere. Everybody being happy about, I'm sponsoring my masjid. I'm sponsoring my sheikh. That is my sheikh. I'm paying him. You feel good about it. So that's what happens with not understanding community dynamics. Okay, now we'll move on to the real practical aspects of community mapping. What are the processes that you need to practically do in order to do community mapping? And the tools that you require. On page 14, community mapping tools. So at this stage, we're moving to now, you as a sheikh, you as a community worker, you want to now actually practically get into the community mapping process. Some of the tools that you need, can you read for us the tools that you would require when you're starting to do your community mapping exercise?
Survey forms and questionnaires.
Okay.
Interviews.
Interviews, yeah.
Observational notes.
Observational notes. As you observe the community, you're taking notes and writing. Yeah.
Focus groups.
Yeah, focus groups is like you formulate certain groups for a particular purpose in your community mapping endeavor.
Case studies.
Yeah.
Cameras.
Clip, yeah.
Clipboards. Sticky notes. Maps. Highlighters of different colors.
Yeah, so these are the tools. Let's say now you walk away from the this training session saying, I want to do community mapping. These are the type of things that you would firstly need to obtain. Who of you, what would be the impediments, as everyone that's sitting here, what would you think would be the greatest impediment for you to say, okay, in spite of me understanding what are the positive things about community mapping, the advantages, and I like it and all of that, what would still make you not to do community mapping? In spite, no matter how much you've read, how much you understand, what would you make you still not to do the community mapping? Sheikh Naiba, what? Because I'm sure, I'm very sure that you wouldn't, tomorrow after a week go back and say, now the way I want to do things is going to be very different based on what I've learned and what I've discovered about. What would stop you from doing it?
Okay. It requires a lot of effort because, a simple interview, a simple survey, you have to do hundreds, if not thousands sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a lot of time and effort.
Okay, sir. Yeah, a lot of time and effort. That would be an impediment, right? Yeah, do you agree with Ibrahim that he's mentioning? One of the things that will impede you from doing it is the lot of, and probably let's say you don't even have to do 1,000. Normally what I would advise the Imam, start with about 40, 50 houses that are in close proximity around your center, because that alone is good. 50 houses, and then the general part of it is knowing there's a hospital or there's a clinic in the community, knowing how many schools are there, knowing that there's a library. So in case someone wants to put a structural improvement in your community, the first thing that they need to do is putting up a library or putting up a clinic within your masjid vicinity so that you serve the community, or putting up anything that you think will add value, putting up like a playground within your community. So yeah, it requires quite a lot of effort, and many a times imams or community workers, that is not something that people high above you see it as a priority. You're wasting time actually. If you're trying to do community mapping, why are you wasting time? Do what we told you to do and carry on. Whatever it is that you are doing, do that. Right? So yeah, that's a good point. What else would impede you from doing community mapping?
There is also a big issue with the bosses. As we are working with the bosses, if sometimes they find out that you're doing something like this, they may also suspect you. So you want to use the base for something without knowing what you're focusing in.
Oh.
So they will suspect you that, you're doing this because
you are trying to, someone else gave you a job, a side job. You are probably doing a side job. Yeah. Okay, that's...
But sometimes also decide to do something. Even, subhanAllah, there's a lady, on this wish I bought something, but then I saw that they need more than this, the one which I bought. But if I go for that, so the people, they will now put in this, so you get almost stuck between the wall and the sword. And so,
So you rather don't do it, because you...
I think the solution to that comes back to what we discussed earlier on, in terms of better communication with the management or the board or whatever. So hypothetically, after this program, you had a discussion and you gave an outline of what the course was about, and you said, okay, this is what community mapping is, this is how I think I can implement it, this is why we think we need it, then I think you sort of, in a way, solving the issue.
Communicating with them. So you can hear what you're saying. Instead of maybe you just doing it on your own, at least open up those doors of communication and making them understand the importance of it. Wouldn't that help in a sense, you know? Yes.
I wanted to give a practical example of what you said. This did not happen here, but it happened in Zambia. I saw that in Ramadan, they were giving hampers, but these hampers were like of the same weight, right? Maybe there's 2 kg sugar, 10 kg flour, 10 kg this thing. So now they were giving people who are just married. There's just a husband and a wife, and a family that is of 15 people. They're giving them the same hampers. So I requested, that time I wasn't even working, but I requested the association to say I want to make a census.
Yeah.
So that those who are maybe 7 and above, you give them 2 shares.
Okay.
Because they're a lot. So, okay, but they came up with an excuse to say, no, but who's going to pay you? I told them I'm doing it for free. I'll give you the whole census of the Muslims in our town so that you take it from there. So I drew up everything, then I was moving from one part of the town to the other until I finished. Then I brought them the book. So this is the book, and this is my findings. These are the families, these are dependents, these are sons, and whatever. When they looked at the whole thing, they ended up paying me. They said, you did such an amazing job. So now we have all the data we need. So we know who will give 1 hamper and who will give 2 hampers. Others will also give 3 hampers, but because now we understand the situation on the ground. So sometimes to open up communication with the people who are running the thing. Yes, they won't trust you at first, but once you give them the feedback and the database, it will help them also to grow, inshallah.
Yeah, okay. So you attempt the communication, and hopefully, inshallah. Practical example from my side, I was commissioned to, in the early stages, at a particular dawah center in a township, you know, to run the dawah center where people come, you tell them information about Islam, you give them pamphlets and so forth. So being there for about a period of 3-4 months, I was realizing that people are very aloof to even come closer to the dawah center, even although there was a big board that is there, you know, this community, whatever the community's name, propagation center. That's what was put as the name of it. Firstly, to put that kind of a message in a community that is non-Muslim, it is very antagonizing. If you're saying, let's say, Umbumbulu Islamic Propagation Center, it means anybody that comes there, you are trying to propagate. People are very averse to being propagated to. So you got to have messages that are sort of inclusive in nature. Messages that are drawing people as opposed to, say, propagation. You know, propagation people are. So I thought of doing activities within the dawah center that will draw people closer. So what I could do at that moment within the means that were within my, my ability, we started a small food garden project. Small, it was not that big. I would say it was about 50 square meters, very small. So the idea was to plant spinach there, because I realized that in terms of like spinach and other vegetables they take long, but spinach grows very fast and it's quick and people like to buy it. Even if they're eating meat, they'll come and buy spinach. So that was the idea, to say it gives people an excuse to come to the dawah center. So behind the masjid, an excuse, we would sell fresh spinach from the garden as opposed to buying it from the street corner. So as they would come, you are sort of creating a closeness, a rapport, a relationship with them. You discuss other things, but they get to know you. The 3rd time they come, the 4th time they come, the relationship is so open that you can even open to speaking about religion. But initially when I started that, the people who were in charge, they were very opposed. We didn't employ you here to come and do gardening. We employed you for dawah. You know? So little do they understand that this on its own is dawah. It's subtle, it's long-term, it's a lot of effort. But I understand the dynamics of the community, that the best way to do dawah is by you creating like a very open relationship with the community. But eventually, it took time. After a period of 2 years, they began to understand what it really. So any donor that would come, the first thing that they would do, they would take them to the garden now, not even to the office itself. You say, look, hey, there's a garden that has been formulated here. It's for the. So those kind of stuff you have. Initially, you might have, hit hard, and it's not, doors are not open and all of that, but you got to attempt. Sheikh, what do you think it will impede you? Soldier, what would be an impediment, the biggest impediment for you to do community mapping?
To me, my community, I understand. Because if I say, I don't mean to say, no, you know what, let's do this, let's try this. I just go there, I need 5 people or 15 people, certain time you must be in a certain place. I'll come to pick you up to go to a certain place. So they do that, because if I've been there, I speak as a soldier. So they understand. That's why I can't say it.
Oh, you don't have problems.
If you're going to go now, if I food now, I need 50 people to certain places. I'm coming now with the visitors. They must be there. You'll meet them.
Oh, okay.
This is my community.
Oh, okay.
So we need to do new thing. And you say, you know what, we need to do this, we need to do this. They understand very well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
mashallah, he's got the community really under control, mashallah.
Yeah, he's very. Yeah. I start from beginning.
You start from beginning.
I press hard. That's why they're okay now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so these are the tools that you will require. And then secondly, so this is the process. This is what I'm teaching you, is the process of community mapping. So step 1 of mapping your community. So if you look towards the end of your notes here, there's a survey form. You know the form that says Appendix B, survey form, right? Community general problem identification. So if you're going into community generally to do dawah, these are some of the questions that I formulated after experiencing that it's not easy to engage with people just coming with a religious philosophy. You must come from an approach that you care about the community problems. So some of the questions, if you look at that, it says, what are the main challenges facing the community? What this is helping you to do, you are gaining insights of the real challenges of the community. At the same time, you are breaking barriers. So people understanding that you are not coming there as an enforcer, as imposing ideas on them. You are coming there as someone that is willing to collaborate. So I would go with this here. My intention is actually dawah in the long run. But I'm just trying to knock the doors on trying to create a commonality. Nobody can argue with you if you come into their house and asking them what are the challenges of the community. Nobody can say, why are you coming to do that, right? What, in your opinion, do you think this is the main cause of these problems? If you're asking someone, what do you think is causing these type of challenges that are there in your community? What do you think will be the quickest and most effective steps that should be taken to eradicate these challenges? If you had to make any positive change in the community, where would you begin? Right? You are trying to derive insights. What are the impediments experienced in trying to eliminate some of these problems? What are the positive aspects that you admire about your community? So you are information gathering, right? And then lastly, do you think that religion can be an answer to the solutions of these challenges? Do you understand the question that is coming last? I want to, do you really think religion can be an answer to these challenges? Now you get an insight of what people think about religion. And also this leads you towards that, it leads you now towards that direction of speaking about Islam, about whatever, but you never start with that. You just made sure you open up the path. So if someone, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, Sheikh, that I think the good thing about these questions, it also comes back to that idea we have not trying to be the hero, but making them sort of part of the solution. So just by answering the question of how they believe they can make a positive change, it already starts including them in the solution.
100%. And when people feel included, they will participate. When people feel included, you'll have less sabotage to the type of things, or you'll have less people trying to prove themselves because you included them from the beginning, you know. And if someone eventually tells you no, like you'll probably, they'll ask, if let's say someone says, I believe your religion is the solution to community problems, then you'll ask them which religion, you know, it will lead you to that. Do you think Islam is the, do you think Islam is the solution to the problem of your, the community problem? I guess he might say no, he might say yes. But if he says no, how would you answer to that? Because that's part of why the person would say no is show me what Islam has done in my community, first of all. You're talking to say, isn't we always say Islam is a solution for all problems? Is that the slogan that you always see? The guy wants don't tell me about 1,000 years ago or what. I want to see right now what solutions that Islam, besides you saying I'm going to be saved in the year after, which is an important thing, you know, whatever. I want to see the type of solutions that it's bringing in a practical type of life. And if you are unable to present those kind of stuff, that's where normally people would consider your religion to be not really something to be taken serious. You know? But these things really they help. You get to think you get to know what people think about your religion. Okay, planning. I won't read everything here because it's quite, you can read it yourself. So the first step that you need to do when you're doing your community mapping is planning. So what is the part of planning? Where you present the idea to all committee members and important stakeholders. So Sheikh Naiba, that's an important part, like we spoke about that. Because this thing is sometimes it's a very strange thing to many people within the space of community work. You have to sell them the idea. You have to convince them that it is something that is important. It is something that is really beneficial. You have to get buy-in, you know, from everybody that is there. Okay, let's go on to page 16 where it says strategy. You can read for us on page 16, Sheikh Jassia, the strategy that you need to adopt now in doing your community mapping.
Start with any information that you have readily available at your disposal. E.g. Google Maps. Google Maps allows one to add locations and landmarks on the map. Statistics, SA website.
Anecdotal.
Anecdotal evidence and stories.
So do you understand what we are saying here? When we're saying, when you are the strategy that you need to adopt in your community mapping, you use information that you can get without much effort. For example, Google Maps already, you can go onto the website and get just an insight of how the community looks. Already you got free information for yourself. If you do not have that type of information, you know now, like I said here, Google Maps allows you to add location. So for example, if there's a police station, it shows there's a police station. You can add your masjid, you can add the imam's house, you can add all of those type. Already you've got that information available at your disposal for free. Other information, you want to know the composition, you want to know the number, or what do you call it, the census. The people within that community, how, you know, the number of people in that community. Where do you get that information from? If you want to know the population size of a community, census, from the census, was it?
Yeah. This is South Africa.
Yeah, it's there on the website. Although it's not accurate because they do the census every 10 years now, which is sometimes, but at least you got something. If they tell you there's about 50,000 people in this community, you can probably add another 10,000 or something like that. You know, but at least you've got some idea of what is the population of this community. Anecdotal evidence and stories. This is where we're speaking about you interact with leadership within the community, or you interact with individuals that you think will give you some beneficial information about. So if people tell you, probably you are coming there as an example, you are coming there, you want to do feeding in the community. You get stories and lessons from people who have been in the community to say, someone else tried this thing in this community, and this is what happened. This is the backfiring that happened. So at least you're working from a position of being informed instead of falling into the same traps again, making the same mistakes that were made by previous individuals. Okay, we spoke about identify community leaders, obtain map of your area from the council. Is there any one of you that has obtained a map of the council from, did you ever get a map of the council of your area? Anyone that has got that? Okay. Any other way that anyone suggests?
You as Muslim, as a leader, your center is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or your center, wherever you are. Why don't you start from there? Then.
Yeah, I would say that is the most where you are.
Yes.
Right? Where you are, you know your neighbor. Even if, let's say, you never know, you know sort of, and you've got some sort of imagery of an idea of how many meters away your neighbor is. Even though it's not perfect, you would probably assume 20 meters. This one is about 30 meters. And you open that way. That is the best way, actually, I would think. You're starting from your center where you are, because you make yourself the center. Right? And then you know, okay, after my neighbor, there's 2-3 more houses. So you sort of drawing dots and you're building it. And you don't have to build a very big one, whatever. And then you build it that way. Yeah, I think that's the best way, actually, of formulating. You make a center. And the center ideally should be where you are, where the masjid is, where the community center is established. So on page 17, step 3 is identification. So the kind of stuff that you would like to identify, I just put a whole lot of things here. You may want to identify all of them, or you may want to identify 4 or 5 of them, depending on what is the reason that you want to do the mapping for. Right? Open spaces. How much open spaces are there within this community? Water and sanitation infrastructure, main roads, schools. Are there parks in this community? You know, you find in certain of these downtrodden communities where there's no parks. If there's no parks within the community, already that gives you an idea or an indication as a community worker that if any donor or sponsor wants to come from outside, park is one of the most important things that I need to create within this community. Or someone comes, you know there's the clinic. The elderly people have to go very far in order to go to a clinic. In my masjid, I would like to establish a clinic within the vicinity, within the vicinity or somewhere nearby. So you already identified things that are there and things that are not there. So these are some of the examples of things that you can identify. Step 4 is legwork. Legwork is always obviously now the form that I showed you. You're going house to house, trying to do surveys, trying to do interviews with people, trying to get deeper insights and information of the community. On page 19, the last part, the 5th step is capturing. So it's no use that you collect all this information, but you do not capture it very well. You need to have some sort of a filing system. So in case, even if you end up having to leave the community someday, whoever comes next, they've got a working document. They don't have to start from scratch. They start from where you are and build upon that. You make extra working copies as well. All right, on page 20, we've got there the updating of information. Remember, community mapping process is iterative. So sometimes some people think if I made community mapping in 2015, for the rest of my life, I don't have to do community mapping. It does not work like that. It's a process of collecting information, analyzing the information, and then you map it. But then it would probably mean after 2-3 years, you adjust the information again. Things change. People move out of communities, new things come up within communities. So that's the process of community mapping. Page 21, does community mapping, whether done by governments, NGOs, or individuals, guarantee the development of the mapped community will take place? Does it guarantee? Why it doesn't? If community mapping is done, you've got all of the information, what is the problem now of not developing the community? So amongst the reasons that I put there, spatial injustices and inequalities are often deliberate or even imposed. So even if they are clearly identified, they will not be resolved. Some of the spatial injustices, I mean, if you take, for example, the apartheid spatial, injustice and division, it was a deliberate effort. It was meant. I'm doing that so that there's no development in certain communities and there's development in other communities. So even if you understand that this is an injustice, it does not necessarily mean it's going to be developed. Often those in control to improve the condition of the disadvantaged have no outward tangible incentive to do so. In fact, they may view the improvement of the conditions being a major disadvantage to their interests. Right? So often, if there are problems that someone understands that in this community, they've got a problem of sanitation, for example. But they wouldn't want to do that because the greatest funding comes from, let's say from you, from what? Feeding, or let's say there's no need for an orphanage in a particular community because there's no orphans that are there. But because the greater funding comes by you saying I'm housing orphans, so instead of doing that which is supposed to be done, you do an orphanage because that's what's bringing you funding. So it's not because you understand the problems, that on its own will push you to want to change it. Because you are getting the funding through the orphans, why must you change it? It's not to your benefit, it's not to your advantage to change the situation, right? If you tell someone, no, Ramadan hampers are too much, we don't need so much. Why must the person stop giving you hampers when the funding is coming via the channel? Why would the person stop? They can't stop because that's how things are operating. All right, when is it a waste of time to do community mapping? Completely waste of time. You can read for us someone, when is it a waste of time to do community mapping? Yeah, anyone can read, yeah.
When you don't really care about the community, you are merely carrying out the community mapping exercise because a donor promised you some money for particular community projects.
Yeah, you don't really care. You don't have long-term investment. Like, for example, if you go into a community, you are only going there for a job, or you are doing a project just because someone told you there's funds available for that particular, but you don't care. There's no thing about you care about really developing the community. So I think amongst the greatest questions that you need to ask yourself as an imam working in a community is, how long, what commitment do you have? How long commitment that you have to be in the community? You find someone that comes in a community as a passerby. So that type of a person, irrespective of how much you tell them about community mapping, you tell them about how important it is to do long-term strategies, that person won't want to because I'm just there as a passerby. If I get a better job tomorrow, I'm going to jump out and go for that job. So now, how would you ever convince someone like that to do community mapping? It's not easy. So you as an imam, sometimes you find, no, I'm just here because that's a job that I have. I happen to be here. There's no other alternative. In that sense, you will never do the community mapping because then community mapping means long-term commitment with the community. Okay, the next one.
When those in high authority within your organization don't see the value of community mapping and view it as a waste of time.
Yeah. So part of when it will be a waste of time is that people that you are working with, they don't see it as something that would add value to the community. It would add value to them. So you may do all of the effort. I'm not saying don't do it. Maybe Allah might open other ways. But quite often, if you do not have buy-in from the people that you are working with, it might end up being a useless exercise, the exercise of community mapping. You can carry on reading.
The exercise may be carried out, create hope within the community, and then shoved in the dustbin, never to effect any change. Once communities learn that you are someone who is incapable of seeing things through, the situation can be worse than not having done anything at all.
Yeah, so you'll find some people trying to do community. Some people deliberately want to do they do community mapping with promising people in order to gain favor or to get information, but they know genuinely that they don't have any intention to improve the community whatsoever. So those things do happen. Okay. The this is where it ends our notes. The other things that I needed to show you were on the laptop, but then
should be back in 20 minutes.
It should be back in 20 minutes, no? Yeah. All right. So, yeah, but for now, the notes, if there's any other maybe questions that you have in relation to what we have done so far, if there's, other input that you would like to, because I don't want this thing just to be an exercise of just theoretical information that you've acquired. And I'm not saying you can implement all of it. It's very tough. It's very difficult, like you're saying, as a 20. Sometimes even if you just do a small portion, a small aspect of the community, just mapping certain things about your community, or getting the Muslim database, or getting the database of, basic stuff that you require within the community. 5, 6 items that you think will be helpful for you to know in improving the efforts in the community. For example, if you're in a community, you don't know how far is the police station, how far is the clinic, the poverty levels, the water, the sanitation, that puts you in a very, in a position of disadvantage to people, to stakeholders who want to assist you. Yeah, so if there's any questions or comments in relation to this, you're most welcome to contribute.
Just to go back from where you started off, where you said at times community workers or community work, especially Islamic community work, is viewed as the lowest in our society.
Yeah.
Yes, I've met a few people who have asked me why am I an imam?
Yeah.
Why am I doing Islamic work?
Yes.
Not trying to find out why, but what they're saying is, like the other man, he told me, your level of intelligence is a bit high. So why are you doing like a lower job like this? Why can't you go into
serious stuff?
Other fields? They even told me which fields I can excel.
Okay.
So not only one person, quite a few people. So I don't know why in an Islamic environment we think only people who are like low in their should take imam's jobs or Islamic work, because I'm passionate about doing my job. That's why sometimes I tell people I can do this job whether I'm paid or not paid.
Yeah, it's something that drives you.
Like I developed this love when I was like grade 6, I think. When I went to a madrasa and I found this Moulana and the way he was doing tafsir, and I'm like, I want to be like that man one day, inshallah.
Yeah.
To give tafsir at that level. So,
yeah.
What could be the problem in our society, which makes people think that imam should be like on this level? Even the way I'm dressing, I fight with a lot of people just by dressing like this. But you are an imam. Why are you dressed like this? Does imam have the dress code? Is the dress code different between imams and other members in the society? Yeah. What could be the thinking behind all this? That's what my bother is.
Yeah, I mean, others can also contribute and give their answers. In my analysis and my thinking, I think there's also an oversupply of imams in the country, in South Africa. I don't know about other countries or whatever. I mean, just in the community that I live alone, I can easily tell you there's like over 50 alims that are there, each one looking for a job to teach in a madrasa or to be an imam or to do whatever. So quite often when there's an oversupply of something, the value of it becomes diminished, you know? And you find, I mean, it is sometimes it is a genuine thing where you would find someone going to the Darul because they could not do anything else in life. The families would send someone that, oh no, you can't become a doctor or they can't become whatever. They would send that individual to the Darul. So that perception becomes created in the minds of the community to say, oh, these are the downtrodden ones that could not make it academically or reach a level of financial mastery. So there's an oversupply, and that thing of where people generally in families would send someone that they would consider the black sheep of the family. So the value of the person diminishes. Whereas if there were less of those, there was a demand of community workers and people saw the value of community work, I think the perceptions would be different. That's just my take and my analysis from that. Yeah. What others think? What do you think is... Because it's a fact that the community worker is not someone that is really valued.
But I think that maybe, but the thing what is, if you look back, so our ulama, those who founded those madaris, they were just few.
Yeah.
But still, the value was not that. That is why maybe Islam did not spread. Although the demand was less, but Islam did not spread. So I think that the second point which you mentioned, that the family, they consider Islam to be like the ultimate thing. If the person or the child in the family cannot manage to do science or that, so they throw him there. So they put the people, they have that thinking that Islam has no value. To be an imam has no value. To be a teacher in the madrasa has no value. That is why maybe our bosses even doesn't pay us enough. So from that is what they have in their mind.
The other issue is there is no entry qualification to the positions.
Okay.
The person who did the lower madrasa and the person who did the higher madrasa, they put on the same
level.
On the same level.
Yeah.
The person who went for 2 years and the person who went for 15 years.
They joined the same alim course.
No, not the same alim course. Somebody did imamat, right?
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
Somebody did the alim course, which is 6 years.
Yeah.
When we are given employment, we are employed as
same level,
at same level, while this one's level is higher than the other one.
Yeah.
And like you say, the supply is so much that if you demand what is rightful for you, they will say, no, you are easily replaced.
Yeah. Replaced, they can get someone tomorrow.
Some organization, like every year, they have a new imam.
Advertising.
Surprise day.
Yeah.
We fire you, we'll get another one.
Easy.
We don't value you. So if you go today, no matter that's why even in the madrasas there is no progress sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they keep on changing the teachers. And you have seen when madrasa starts, I could have reached at a certain level with my students because I understand them. So this man comes, say, no, your ustaz taught you nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take you back to Alif because you don't understand Tajweed.
Yes.
Maybe I was taking my time to say, okay, because these people, they are coming from a different background. Once they know how to read properly, then I'll introduce Tajweed.
Yeah.
But this one will come, you're reading like this. No, you don't know Tajweed, so you have to start from part 1 again.
Yeah.
It also discourages the students, like, hey, I've moved that far, then this ustaz is taking me. So I think that's also another problem. If our da'awah rooms were accredited, maybe with the NQ level 2 or even level 4, it will know, you know that, okay, now this guy is qualified now.
He's qualified,
he's on NQ level something.
Yeah.
Then just I know Alif, then I memorize a few surahs. I may be educated, but my voice is not good. So sometimes when you go for interviews to this Islamic organization, Sheikh, read anything from the Quran, then your voice is not good, and they think you're not qualified. The person who's not qualified, he reads like Abdul Basit, they say, MashaAllah, we have an Imam.
Yeah. It happens.
Things,
But those things we have. But if you look, we take these two groups. Even you can see these qualified may be in Egypt, the Sheikh is saying, but that Imam or that Sheikh or that person doesn't have that the freedom for him to say that, okay, my son did this.
Whoever, yeah.
Yeah, so he will have to be told. It's not like in the science or other fields where you have maybe if you are this, your salary that. But in the madaris or in the masjid, there's no such thing. That okay, you graduate, this is your level, this is your experience, your salary is this. Doesn't have this thing.
Doesn't exist.
So the people they don't have that value in Islam.
Yeah.
And I think also it goes with the communities. Because in certain communities, when you're an alim, no matter how many alims they may have, you have izzah because you're an alim.
Okay.
But when you are a sheikh, no matter how qualified you are, you'll always be looked down upon.
Okay.
So I think also it has to do with communities and also us, in our communities. We don't honor our ulamas. Like communities, we don't honor them.
Yeah.
Whereas in other communities, the ulamas are honored.
Respect them.
Yes. So there is that mindset which has been installed in us that, an Indian Imam can come, Indian Moulana can come, so we'll give them that honor, that respect. Whereas when this black Moulana comes in the community,
yeah. It's a point, yeah. You wanted to say something? Similar to what, yeah.
General respect.
Yeah.
No, it happened. There are most there where I'm staying there by you, man. There are Imam there, the African like me. Nicely, they will call another Imam from India. He came there. He getting me 10 grand a month, but this one is still 2,400.
Yeah.
Now he asks, why you give me 10 grand? You know what? We will see you. Will say, how are you going to put in big glasses to see me? You just came now, but you study 60, after that 10. Okay. You study 80, now you 2-4. Now I'm crying. What's going on? So, don't worry, yeah, you there. Let's say you there. That's why when he asked me, I said, no, the main thing. So I explained it nicely, what it is. But that one, you have to be in my inbox. Then I tell you what happened. Then you win the game. But where am I? I win the game because they started from that team. So I said, no, you know what? If you want to sleep, you can't face your leg in a kibble.
Okay.
So if you want me to be Imam, we're talking about religion, how we're going to defraud money one side. We can make money today, tomorrow we don't have money. But if you die, you leave everything. What are you going to take in Akhir? I need 10,000, I need 14,000, you're going to give me today. If I go there, make end of the month, 40,000. If I die, I have to answer all those things. So you're talking about that. If you talk about the politics, let's go to politics. If you talk about the deed, let's talk about the deed. Talk about the finance, let's talk about the finance. Don't mix the story to me. Okay. You need me, I go in the front. Anything coming there, I'll face it.
Yeah.
So they understand me now.
Oh, okay.
What I want, they do.
MashaAllah. Very good strategy.
Example, like last week, he come one white man and a group to survey the place. I said, who asked you to come here? He said, no, the certain person said us here to survey the place. What's what to do? We're going to build a new mosque. I said, how come? I don't know. I'm here for 24 years. And the trustee, they understand me, but they never tell me. He said, there's a map here, they show me everything. So listen to me, my man. Never mind you're white, you speak English, I speak English. Park your thing, move away. You want to fight, stay in the front, I face you. You went that way. Finish. Also, phone to the man who asked you to come here.
Yeah.
And the man you phone me, yeah, why you chase my man out? I said, yes, because me, I'm a man, I chase a man out. If it was a lady, I shouldn't chase, I should put in a room. Finish the story.
Okay.
So
Okay, let's move on.
Don't do like you try. Don't put in the name of, I'm going to try. No. Do it perfectly. 100.
Yeah.
You fail. You win. Finish.
Okay.
Ask your neighbor, Ferrarimo and the Ram, what's going on in Mozambique? They drop bomb anyhow, isn't it? You trap it up, what's happened? Finish. So it's not a McBean, that. It's a bomb. There's a problem. So problem, what we go, we as a Dai African, if we come here, hey, don't talk. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I want to do it. Smiling, no good. In a deal, no.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Another question that may arise as an imam, as someone that is running a masjid, the question you may ask yourself, what business do I have in worrying about problems of the community that are there? I'm just here as an imam to do my dawah and to lead my congregation. So you might, because this relates to community mapping largely. The reason why you're doing community mapping is because you want to, the type of ideas that you're bringing in the community are all inclusive, you want to improve. What you can ask yourself, what business do you have worrying about the entire community? Because it's a valid question. I'm an imam, and that's what I get paid for. In fact, some tawalis would tell you that this is what we pay for, to be an imam and to teach madrasa. That's what you get paid for. What business do you have in worrying about the things that are happening around the community? That is a question that may arise. What is there any relevance? Is there validity to that question?
What happens outside the community will affect the running of the masjid.
Okay.
Whether we like it or we don't.
Yeah.
You see, I'll give an example of what has happened. I think those who live in Durban, especially those who are near Kisai, married here. There's a lot of Kamsarism.
Okay.
Lord, just last week they killed 5 people. They wanted to kill the mechanical, they killed the customers, they killed his workers also. Whoever was present that day, they were killed. But I've lived, when I first arrived in South Africa, I was in Marin.
Okay.
I stayed there. It's still my village. That's why I'm in and out every day. Like I go there because I established some good relationship with a few people. But when I identified the problem, just 3 months ago, there was a group of local people who were only attacking Malawians. There were a lot of Malawians.
Oh.
So they were breaking in the houses, taking the TVs, using xenophobia as an excuse.
Yeah.
So now those Malawians now have moved to other areas.
Okay.
The things that are people who depended on the Malawians renting their houses are empty. So they have no income. When I was telling them, defend these people because they are your tenants. Once they move out, you will have no income. Now it's happening. Now those people have moved out. These gangsters, who are they attacking now? They have started attacking the locals now.
Yeah, it
they
happens.
become the targets.
Yeah, it becomes like that, yeah.
I was there giving a talk yesterday, somewhere there. I saw maybe 8 police cars now going round and round, patrolling, searching cars. They will stop and search from the police from before Isha up to when we came back around 10. So if the problem is there in the community, and as Muslims we want to live in isolation, that this doesn't
affect
concern us, in the long run, it will come to concern you. You are part of the community.
Yeah.
If you're not part of the solution, then the trouble will still come to you. It may not be an immediate thing, but as time goes, it will come affect you.
affect.
Those people we chase away from the madrasa, they are the same people who come and attack us and steal from us.
Yeah.
Like you tell them,
problem that is, causing rampage within Muslim communities. At one point, nobody would have, years back, that the drugs will affect Muslim community. There's many problems that are there. Any problem, the fire when it comes, it will eventually catch your house, irrespective of how slow it's taking or how long you think it's gonna come. It will come. So sometimes when you're working in community, we adopt this mindset to say, no, I must just worry about my congregation. As long as I'm building, my people are coming for Salah, I'm giving them hampers in Ramadan, there's Taraweeh, that's it. And that comes back to haunt us in a very bad manner. Another example of understanding this is that how many people you find moving out of community. Sometimes you would find someone moving out of a Muslim community, going into, like now, like here in KZN or in Durban. How many Muslims are moving more towards the north? Is it a phenomena that those who can afford it are moving to the north?
Yeah.
Why are they moving?
Completely moving away from the country.
Some are moving away from the country. All right? It's because everybody wants to stay in a nice community. Everybody, you're not worried. Sometimes people would send their children to a school that is more well structured. The education is good. Do they care whether it's a Muslim school or not? They don't care. So if you as a Muslim leader that is working within a community, you are not building the community. You are not adding value. You want other people to build a community for you, and then you want to move in that community. It doesn't work that way. So the important thing is you make the community. You make the community conducive. You make it a good community, and instead of trying to run away to communities that have been made nice for you. So that's
that observation, Moulana. I've noticed it, not from the Muslim Ummah.
Yeah.
But you see, Morningside, it was for whites. When blacks and Indians started buying houses in Morningside, the whites moved to Mklang.
Yeah.
Now Indians and blacks are buying houses in Mklang. They have moved to Belito.
Okay, higher.
I don't know where they will end up. I've seen that this phenomenal way when the other races come into their community, they move further north.
They move
I don't know, maybe they will end up in the ocean or further north, but I've noticed that.
Yeah, it is something that commonly happens. Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to drive is that people always want to live in a community that is crime-free, a community that is conducive for your children to grow there. So if you're not the one that's taking the initiative to change the community broadly, who do you want must change the community for you? Yeah, so... Okay, so technically we are done. It's just this video that I wanted to play. It's just an additional explanation and understanding of Okay, just watch this video and just give me your personal impressions and your okay, no, there's not this one, wait.
Vibrant Citizens Association, one that has won several awards. Here, they have robust entrepreneurial income-generating projects. And this Portland-based community was able to effect well-needed changes in its districts. These communities were able to get help to bring all these projects to life using their community profiles. Almost everyone, if not all, wants the best amenities and resources in their communities. A functional multipurpose court, a homework center, a vibrant youth group. These and similar programs could become a reality in your community with the help of the Social Development Commission and the community profiles it's generating. These profiles are gaining traction with funding agencies and government entities as the documents are detailed, spelling out the challenges and positives within a particular community.
A community profile is really a document that gives you the information on the community itself. So that information we speak about is the population size of the community. It gives the information on the spatial layout, first of all. Where is this community? What are the boundaries? What are the districts around the community? And how it is placed in relation to the rest of the communities in the parish.
Then there are other pertinent facts, such as demographic data, education and training, health, housing and sanitation, infrastructure and social services, crime and public safety and governance. Almost daily, the SDC is called upon by government ministries and not-for-profit groups, such as the United Nations Development Programme, to provide facts about a particular community. Most of the profiles are 50 to 100 pages thick. Of the 783 communities across Jamaica, about 595 profiles have been completed so far.
We look at the breakdown by gender. So how many males, how many females, and the age groups, what they have attained, from the household head to the other persons in the community. And we give information on all the schools that are there.
A community profile is comprehensive as the Commission adopts a participatory approach in garnering the information documented in the booklet. Questionnaires completed by residents are combined with the data collected from agencies such as Statin and other organizations and ministries. And these community profiles are being used. In Portland, the Boundbrook community was the recipient of a renovated sports complex and other needed amenities. This was also as a result of a community profile.
Since we started, we have had, in our community month, we have communities doing community projects. And most of these projects are coming through a community priority plan. When you think of the National Best Community Competition, the first thing they ask for is a profile on that community. And it is out of that profile that it plans. Whatever money they win through, they have to support some community project that comes out of that data. So it is used in many instances. We produce data for the Ministry of National Security. They use this information to develop projects in this community. And they're one of our key partners in terms of asking us to collect data and community profile. We did environmental surveys for labor. In the Black River watershed, they used that information. The UDC market was done by SDC Research Department, and the information was used for. And agencies have to know that you need to come to SDC because we do collect the community-based data.
Yeah.
Planning has to be built on the foundation of solid information, and that is what the Social Development Commission is facilitating. Some profiles are available on the Commission's website. Persons who are interested in a copy of a community profile may contact the SDC at its head office, located at 22 Camp Road, Kingston 4, or telephone them at 928-8304.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was just like an overview and summary of what we've been discussing. If you notice what the lady, this organization actually, sometimes as a masjid or as a community organization, you can actually provide services to do community mapping for others. You know, like how this organization does. So any donor or any organization, whether it be the bigger organizations within KZN that want to do some development or something, they can actually, if you establish yourself as a community work, as a community profiling organization, they can come to you for information to say, Sheikh, can you please provide us with information because we would like to build a school in this community. We would like to build a masjid in this community. So it's much bigger than even doing surveying for your own community. It's much broader than that, right? So the importance of doing community from that angle, where you can even end up making it as an income generation for your organization, for your facility, if you really if you do it well. Right? And then she mentions any sort of planning has to be based on solid information that is derived from the community. Right? Any other points that you learned from this? Anything that you picked up that's important that has been said?
Identifications of what the community needs.
Yeah. Yes.
To identify what a certain community needs. Communities are different, so you can't give the same
thing
to everybody.
Please.
To identify specifically what that community
needs. Yeah. Also mentioning about policies are drawn based on the information that you gathered from the policy. You come up with a policy because you've acquired certain information of what are the needs of the community, what are the problems. Then you create a policy that is going to minimize those type of problems. You can't come up with a policy without understanding the problems or the issues of that particular community. Right. Okay, these are all the points that we've discussed. So this is when we were doing community mapping. Can you see this? This is the map that I was telling you about. This is a council map this is a map that you get from the council. Even in terms of the quality of the addresses, the street, it's much better than what Google Maps afford you. Google Maps gives you an overview, but it doesn't give you very detailed. So can you see what I told you about the segmenting? So this is quite a big area. So as you can see the guy there, we're segmenting the portions of the area that we're going to be doing the work in. So you segment. Ideally, you start with the portion that is closest to the masjid, that is closest to your area of influence, and then you broaden it and build it from there. This is just another example. Can you see segmenting? Then you start, you started with one portion. This is the house to house. The survey forms that I included there, this is me there, going house to house, that we're doing the questionnaires within the residents of the community, right? So part of the mapping that we did, this community was quite, what's the word? It's, I'm looking for a word. Infested with a lot of shebeens. So within an area of about 5 square kilometers, we counted about 24 shebeens in that area. So alone, by you identifying so many shebeens, so many drinking spots within the community, already that tells you there's a problem in this community. Why are there so many shebeens? So part of the problems that you need to sort out is how are you going to deal with the problem? Because as much as you're going to be trying to create youth programs, it leads you to the point that you understand that you need to create a lot of activities to keep the youth busy, because what's keeping them busy at the moment is the drinking. So sometimes we would drive at night, like, Friday night. The way the streets are busy, youngsters working with beer bottles, that gives you an indication of the type of problems that you need to tackle in the community. This is on a Sunday morning as we're doing the community mapping, taking pictures and understanding what is happening. This is a young girl having overslept throughout the night in the street like that, right? This is the situation. Now this here you can see this is a mother with a child on a Sunday morning. So probably papalas, it's papalas, right? So from the hangover of the previous night, normally in the mornings they would go and buy beer. Now this is a child that is growing, witnessing on a daily basis, whenever witnessing, this is a mother that is carrying a beer like this. So there's probably a lot of drinking that is happening, and the beer is exposed in front of the children. So you begin to understand these are the problems in the community, right? Okay. So among the greatest secret of community development that we all need to learn is that anything that you can do yourself, start with what you can do yourself. Because sometimes we wait for the most ideal or the best of resources, which are not always going to come to our exposure. So what you have within your disposal, start with that and do it to the best of your ability. So with all the doom and gloom, the darkness that we are, I mean, sometimes people, like you mentioned, many people are moving out of the country. Some people are moving out of certain communities. The motivation that keeps me going, to say, because sometimes you would ask yourself, this is so cumbersome, this is so difficult, this is so challenging. What difference would I make by me trying to do a community mapping and having like a long-term strategy, 10, 15 years? What difference would it make? What motivates you? What do you think can motivate? What is the worst thing that can happen? I mean, more than the day of judgment, what is the worst thing that can happen? Whether it be crime, whether it be you sick, whether it be people are not listening to you. What is the worst? The worst thing that can ever stop you is the day of judgment. But in spite of that, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, even in the day of judgment, you can see the mountains are crumbling. Something is about to happen. Plant. You are convinced that my planting, what benefit is my planting going to bring? Because Qiyamah is happening. So the psychology and the mindset that the Prophet ﷺ is trying to instill in